Am I wrong in thinking Ben Judah did an interview with a Dutch TV show about this racist book, or did I just
I've seen some clips from that today. Yeah.
did I dream that, or is that real? Okay.
No, he did. If we cover the article, I was going to very briefly touch on the comparison I made on Twitter to Johan Hari and just like give the really basic. Here's who Johan Hari is and what he did. So anyone.
I thought you meant the comparison you made to Hitler.
Yeah, that too. We'll get into that.
You said it was like Mein Kampf written by Johan Hari, but I imagine you'll want to use that line on the episode itself. Okay.
I don't even know if that's the best line to do it, but like the Johan Hari comparison is the important one. The Hitler one doesn't need to be made explicitly because he's talking about fucking elongated heads and stuff.
He's talking about how Romania was an Axis power for some fucking. I'm so confused. Who thinks of Romania when it's a fucking like? Look, I'm exactly the kind of dickhead nerd who knows this shit, and even I struggle to remember Romania was an Axis power sometimes. Like
that quote is so fucking funny. That's so fabricated. Gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be hosting y'all, the heads of the nation's 3 biggest publishing houses, at this here dinner table for such a purpose as to pitch my next best-selling tome. Now, as y'all know, the name's Judah, Ben P. Judah, a respected man of letters in the journalism trade.
Who is your little friend?
This here is Gwiffian. Now, he's an old Joe, lived round here a long time, and I do mean a damn long time. Old Gwiff here took care of my daddy and my daddy's daddy, and my daddy's daddy's brother, journalists all, and through sheer merit, all at the very top of their chosen profession. Till he up and keeled over one day. Old Gwiff took care of me. He dressed me. He showered me. He relieved me when my sister was unavailable. Growing up the scion of a wealthy journalistic dynasty in southern Ilford puts an Ilford man in contact with a whole lot of dirty Welsh faces. Now seeing them every day, day in, day out, surrounded by them taffy faces, I had only one question. Why do they gotta go have the sexual relations with so many sheep? A fortune in veterinary bills, them libidinous Welsh devils cost us. Right out up there on that there porch, 3 times a week for 50 year, old Gwiffy here would shear my daddy's sheep with a straight razor. We told him to use the pair of shears, but that was too much for the underdeveloped Welsh mind to comprehend. He fucked them gosh darn sheep every dagnab time. Even got him pregnant a couple of times, so give birth to some bastard chimera, 2 different beasts. See, the science of phrenology is crucial to understanding the separation of our 2 species. The misshapen skull of the Welshman here, the area associated with having sex with the sheep, is larger than any human or any other subhuman species on the planet Earth. Even larger than that you find in a sheep's own skull. If you examine this here piece of skull, you'll notice 3 distinct dimples. Here, here, and here. Now, if I was holding the skull of a Mike Gapes or a Richard Miller, these 3 dimples would be found in the area of the skull most associated with honor, with pride, with having sex with beautiful women. But this is the skull of old Gwiffian, unburdened by genius, unlike that of Michael Gapes. These 3 dimples exist in the area of the skull most associated with making sweet love to them tight old mutton chops, clapping them woolly cheeks, if you will. Now, bright boy, I will admit you is pretty clever with your book learning and Wikipedia and sich. But if I took this hammer here and I bashed your skull in with it, you would have the same 3 dimples in the same place as old Gwiffian.
I like how you turned into Isaac Hayes for about 20 seconds in the middle of that.
Yeah, there was a real South Park vibe to part of that.
That is where Jack gets all his American accents from.
I was getting kind of a Cajun Virginian thing.
Yeah, I had. It was supposed to be DiCaprio in Django Unchained.
Yeah.
But I had to kind of go for a New Orleans thing just for expedience. But
Through the lens of Cartman.
So not Tennessee, it turns out.
He's doing a lot of the science of phrenology. That is pretty much how he does it.
I feel like you were going for, you sent me the GIF of the maybe not the GIF, maybe a picture of the South Park episode.
Yeah,
where,
all right.
Yeah,
it was Slave Trader Cartman.
Yeah, it was Slave Trader Cartman.
It was Slave Trader Cartman. A bit of DiCaprio and a corrupt New Orleans mayor.
You mean student athletes, not slaves.
Well, hello there. I'm a respected owner in the slave trade. Yeah.
Fucking hell. That's a throwback for me. Jesus.
Yeah, so that's so we established the immortal science of phrenology. Thank you to Farage's fucked face for helping me write that. And, we're gonna now hand over hosting duties to Geraint to talk about this new book by Ben Jude. It's not even new. It's like an old. Is it about 10 years old or something?
8 years roughly.
8 years old by Ben Judah, who now works for David Lammy as a foreign policy advisor to Britain's government. And it's all a book about
a lot of foreign places. We'll learn that today.
And the people that hail from them.
Various fruit-shaped skulls.
Yeah, big melon skulls.
So we're focusing on this absolutely mad shit today because I've put myself through hell reading most of his book. I only started yesterday, so I haven't managed to finish the whole thing. And also watching his half-hour Vice TV documentary on the same topic. So what started all this was an article yesterday in The Londoner, which is one of those mill media sites that they seem to be starting up in every major city at the moment. Quite mixed in general, and this has a stupid headline as well, so I wasn't going to read it at first. They've titled it, "A government advisor wrote a libel against London. Why did we believe it?" So libel against London's just stupid, but the article itself is pretty good, so I'd imagine that Joshi Herman and Andrew Kersley, who wrote it, had nothing to do with the stupid headline. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that. But basically, this is hang on, Ben Judah is a senior advisor to David Lammy, which is quite an important job at the moment given David Lammy's job. And he wrote a really racist book 8 years ago, and nobody noticed or pretended to notice the bigotry in it. It came out it says early 2016, I think it was August 2016 or something. A book came out that cast London as a city seething with racial tension. It included strange and disturbing accounts of migrant Londoners, including describing a black man as looking pure African and having a melon head, and suggested the capital was filling up with violent and racist Eastern Europeans. That's a fully accurate description of the book, and it got rave reviews at the time. Guardian, The Times, the Financial Times all praised it. So the article focuses, there's a lot wrong with the book. They couldn't have put it all in one article, so this is not a criticism of them in any way. It focuses on a couple of things. It focuses firstly on the mad, casual, racist descriptions of seemingly half the people he meets. Everyone he walks past, he's like, yes, they're from that place. You can tell from this grotesque description of how they look. Talking about surly Afghans, frazzled Jamaican bums and stuff like that. Talks to a sort of gang leader character and says he's Caribbean but looks pure African, flabby more than muscled, with a fold of skin at the back of his melon head.
Fucking hell. I'm sorry, I just need to... It's such an insane way to describe someone. I'm sorry, I'm just I'm
not accidental racism. There's one or two
so
there.
Weird, yeah.
Maybe he's an idiot and he doesn't realise you can't just call anyone with a darker shade of skin than you swarthy.
I know,
probably loads of British people do that. But when you're going into melon heads and
I just think it's worth pointing out these are actual people he's trying. Well, hypothetically, actual people he's describing. It's fucking crazy to me that this got published. That a publisher got this, saw it, and went, "Yeah, sure, fuck it, why not?"
He describes a different man as skinny, a little brittle, with an oblong Somali head that slopes down into thick lips, charred from weed and cat.
just
Yeah.
what specific
so
like,
racially charged.
What
You take that one
specific
sentence and you can make a
descriptions,
case
like-
for this guy being like the most racist guy to have ever written for the Times, and think of the ground that covers.
This man would be out of place in 1950s Britain.
Yeah,
Like, that's how racist that is. Like,
this guy, you could return him to the Victorian era, and they'd be like, rein it in a little bit. They'd probably
Yeah,
agree
like-
with him, but they'd be like,
they'd be like, no,
it.
you have to stick to the actual categories of skull that we have, not these made up ones. You know.
One of the examples here is a registrar he meets. Now, I've read that part of the book not long before we went on air here, and he quite likes this person and reports her stories at length and obviously values her opinion. This is how he describes her. How perfectly round her skull seems to be, with a fleshy button nose and pink miniature ears. This is a face I have seen all over London. I think anyone could guess the registrar is Polish. So
What the fuck? No, I couldn't. No, I couldn't from that. What the fuck are you talking about?
in fact, I've mostly not done the like, this is incredibly racist stuff, because that's all done quite well in the article, but like just mad stuff that kind of exposes his story. Hold on,
Yeah,
we're still talking about that at first. I know you like yeah. Well, as if I don't.
I like racism. Yes, I
In terms of the formalities, we're obviously joined by Jack and YAIR, and also by our friend Sinan, who is our, and I think the entire Left podcasting scene's first port of call when we need someone to share our misery of a really bad book. An expert in the field.
Yeah, I feel like I could do a PhD in horrible books written by centrists at this point.
Yeah, if you can think of a bad book written by a politician or a journalist, you've been beaten to it. Sinan has already covered it, sometimes with our help on the stream or on our podcast or one of our competitors.
Opposing the government and opposing the Conservatives. I'm afraid it's the hard left who want to tighten their control. They want to sideline moderate voices. I don't think anybody should be surprised about that is the nature of the hard left. And of course we know that the hard left famously cannot tolerate any dissent whatsoever. Well, we know who the hard left are, who associate with the hard left. You just said that we were right wing. The hard left agenda. Printing money, nationalisation without compensation, that sort of hard left-wing position. Hard left, the 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 hard left, hard left, hard left, the hard left, the hard left, hard left, the hard left, hard left, hard left, hard left, hard left, the 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 hard left.
I'm all for ripping on the honkies and crackers. By all means.
There was a time you'd be banned on Twitch for saying that. Jesus.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you allowed to do that now?
Yeah, you're allowed. You're allowed now.
Put that as like a 5-second, where you'd normally just post a JPEG with like episode coming soon. Do it like a 5-second audio clip, which is like, I'm always down to rip on the honkies and crackers. I mean, this would love, despite what I say earlier, but you've got like the funniest possible voice for a deadpan delivery of that line.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, I could do one of those documentaries where I go and talk to, like crackers and stuff, like Louis Theroux or Nick Broomfield. That's my man. I'd be like Nick Broomfield, but I don't know. I think I'm too kind of like stoned and awkward to like just gel with people. And
I mean, the awkwardness seems to be a feature of all the people you've just mentioned, as well as like John Morrison and that. So
yeah, true.
If you just sort of timed your weed intake strategically, you'd be fine.
Yeah. I'm going to finally live my dream of talking to extremists all over the globe.
Fucking hell.
Oh, come on, we got group chats for that.
Yeah. Jack meets the Westboro Baptist Church is now like
the Westboro Baptist Church, but woke.
Yeah, they should be our next guests. Yeah, we're going to start getting on. We're going to do a sort of Young Turks style pivot. Start getting some people on outside the left, like the Westboro Baptist Church.
Didn't one of the Westboro Baptist Church do like a de-radicalization arc, but is essentially just having the same politics like every de-radicalizer in history?
Oh yeah, she's just like concerned about trans people.
Oh, yeah, weird, yeah, funny that.
Yeah, like boring middle of the road American, which is really quite right wing in a global term. It's just not as insane as like running around with like God hates fags signs.
Yeah, instead of God hates fags, it's like science hates fags.
Look, I've reviewed my entire past behaviour
Moved from unacceptable bigotry to acceptable bigotry.
I've decided that picketing people's funerals is a little bit much, so that's reform now. Like, you know.
Yeah, that's it. That's growth.
Oh god.
I mentioned. Oh, Sinan, you won't have seen this because I posted it on Twitter. But I was walking up from town yesterday, and I saw this in an underpass. I saw this graffiti which said, "Don't free Tommy R," and then it said "reform" and a tick in a little box. So it's sort of. I think this is the new centre ground of British politics.
Yeah.
Like you're not pro Tommy Robinson, but you do like old Nigel.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
extremely right-wing views, but I don't like cocaine abuse.
At this,
I mean,
to be fair, at this rate, that is probably going to be the political centre. Thanks to fucking Keir Starmer coming third at the next election. Like, fucking hell. Like, even I didn't think the wheels would come off this quick. Jesus.
No. I thought we'd get to about now and we'd start to get the bad headlines. He was actually getting like 10 days in or something.
Yeah,
like,
I honestly thought like
by next year it would be a real problem. Like,
but I was honestly thinking like if it was a harsh winter, then we'd be in for. But it was just a harsh autumn. It was a harsh summer. Everything was fucking shit straight away. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Free Luigi.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Definitely.
The year of Luigi is back on.
Hell yeah.
Did he meet any Italians? And he's like, their heads are like fucking spaghetti. Ben Judah, does he?
I don't think he does, actually.
I don't think he describes Italians.
Only come up in extreme, like, in passing. Like, Italy, Germany, and France get off lightly because they're, like, countries you might want to go to at some point, I take it. Like, obviously
all
Americans.
Axis powers. Well, not really France.
I feel like we give them a pass for Vichy France because it was imposed on them, right? So
it wasn't really a power.
So we've talked about some of the banner, extremely racist-sounding, skull-measury type quotes, even about the people he portrays quite positively in his book. He just can't help doing it. And he seems to just be like, this is how I can tell from someone's looks their exact nationality. Although with the Africans, he just tends to, a couple of points he breaks it down like this person's Ghanaian, but that's when he's interviewing someone and they tell him they're Ghanaian. Normally he's just like, this person is African, whereas he's hyper distinguishing between like different parts of Romania and stuff like that.
He has the skull protrusions of a Geordie.
Yeah, the fucking Romanian stuff is bizarre.
The one place in Britain that catches flack in the same way as all these places is Newcastle. I'll come to that later. But, like, honestly, like, look. There's acceptable ways you can mock the Geordies. Like, they all go topless to the football for some reason, and that's acceptable. But like, this is a bit much.
Anyway, you don't get to talk about him like that. You know?
So he doesn't actually do any anti-Welsh stuff.
There's no like. In fact,
that's disappointing.
I mentioned like in going easy on like, Italy, France, and so on. But I think the only places he seems to not mention at all, like they don't even exist in this book, Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland. He mentions Irish people quite often.
Well, I mean, he would,
because they're all fucking anti-Semites.
Well, at the time it wouldn't have been previous, but he's got previous with Ireland collectively.
Yeah, he really has. Which was, I was like asking when this like first came out, I'm like, is this the Irish people are inherently anti-Semitic guy? Like, is that who
this is a guy who like tried full force to cancel Sally Rooney. 2 hours later, he was like, by the way, Sally, if you want free PR advice, DM me or something like that. He was basically touting for work off the back of his own cancellation attempt. The publishing house in question, which was the only one she'd found that was available, was directly linked financially to the IDF.
Yeah, she was trying to find a BDS compliant way to translate it to Hebrew. Yeah. Was the whole issue.
Hebrew translation. She just didn't want to take the money of any publishing firm that would offer if they were not ethical.
Because he was like, he was like, oh, I can hook you up with a good Hebrew translator, but it probably would have just been like some cunt. I don't know.
It was every Hebrew translator thrown under the bus there.
Peak of like Ireland. Well, there's been a new peak of it now because like Irish people are really kicking off about the current genocide. But like until then, that was probably the absolute peak of like the Irish are inherently anti-Semitic, which like a few people on the
it's
English.
Is that a big meta in the British Isles?
It's come up more often than you'd think. Is the thing. You'd think like
the city of Liverpool,
Celtic fans.
Where is it that's like meant to be the birth? Oh,
one or two of them
Norwich.
mentioned Glasgow, where obviously it's maybe 50-50.
Isn't Norwich the birthplace of blood libel?
Yes, because that is actually true.
Yeah.
That is actually true, to be fair.
That's literally true, but there aren't many Irish people there at the moment, and there aren't many Catholics there at the moment, so
not a great many.
Not fussed about that.
I've been to Norwich. It's not that many.
Anti-Catholicism. Like I've lived in Glasgow for a decade. I know what that looks like when people are like trying to dog whistle it but aren't very clever. Like it happens on a daily basis in this.
Not very clever. So Rangers fans, I take it. Yeah. All right. Okay.
But there's a lot of Catholics in Ireland and in Liverpool as well.
Famously, yes.
So.
Yeah. Famously.
I mean, stating the obvious, but you know. So it kind of makes sense that they're also anti-Semitic there, because the Catholic Church obviously hid Nazi gold.
Paul Mason told us that anyone who ever says they're a Catholic takes direct orders from the Pope on all their political positions.
He was raised Catholic. Yeah. Fucking hell. Yeah,
he said that.
We got us a self-hating one, boys.
The only time he ever replied to me goading him was about the Rebecca Long Bailey thing, and he basically said like, you got treated badly by organised Catholicism as a kid. He didn't elaborate why, and I didn't obviously press him on why. But
what does that have to do with anything?
Being mind controlled today are secret anti-abortionists. It's grotesque. Anyway,
they stopped him getting an abortion. They stopped a young Paul Mason getting an abortion when he desperately needed one.
Fucking Christ.
That's his second novel. It didn't happen, but he's.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad the Paul Mason Mpreg novel never got written. I'm glad I didn't read that one on stream.
Don't put the lathe down.
God, because I laved that David Mensa becoming an Israeli spokesperson. I should really be more careful.
God.
Oh yeah, that guy's such a shithead.
Yeah, because I was like, he's going to end up being an Israeli spokesperson as a shitpost ended up happening like a month later. Good
that
form from me.
argument he had with James Snyder was like genuinely the maddest thing I've seen.
The Red Rage Chiron while he was turning red was just the best fucking art I've seen in a long time.
Anyway, you can read some of the banner examples of the racism on that Londoner article, which is worth a look if you somehow haven't seen it by the time this episode comes out. But the other point it makes is that basically to the authors, they obviously have to be a bit more sort of subjective about this because it is an opinion. They seem to cast doubt on the veracity of some of the stories he tells, because he basically goes and like interviews people, sometimes like semi-undercover, and he seems to find people that have a lot in common with each other, despite very different situations, and seem to fit the narrative he wanted to put across when he started writing the book. Again, very, very common, but none of the people are directly named in it. They're all given aliases, some of which are themselves quite dodgy. He doesn't name them, but there are like photos in the book, and sometimes you can tell exactly like, oh, this is the guy who's called the Fiddler for the last few pages.
The Fiddler?
Yeah, the Fiddler. That's an early character.
What kind? We need urgent clarification there.
He literally played the fiddle. He had a fiddle with him in a case. Neither I nor Ben Judah are accusing anything else there.
Does he play a magical tune and lure rats and or children out of or into the sewers?
He's really bad. He is a fake fiddler bluffing it, is Judah's accusation. The point is
a violin.
Photo,
it's a classical violin, not a country fiddle.
Yeah, I'm sure they just brought the wrong instrument. But he just quite haphazardly posts these people's photos and stuff. And it's unclear to what extent, because some of them are obviously like, he sat this person down and he's talked to them about their experiences, and some of them it's more like, yeah, I was undercover, these were what the people were telling me when I was homeless like them, you know, and it's like, how reliable can this be? What's the ethics of some of this stuff you're doing? So they pick on that as well, and that's something I think that came up a lot when I was looking through it. Different interviewees in different parts of the book will kind of make the same points in the same wording. Maybe he's really bad at recalling interviews that weren't literally recorded or something like that, but I made the comparison on Twitter to Johann Hari. For anyone that doesn't know or remember that affair, Johann Hari was like initially a centre-left posh young journalist that was highly rated, like comment journalist, and he slowly started to get like a whiff of this guy uses some fake anecdotes, fake quotes in his articles. The left were onto him first, but no one listened because he basically went pro-Iraq war. And he was like, yeah, everywhere I go, people come up to me and tell me how great Tony Blair was. And it wasn't just in the places where they named their kids Tony Blair. Like they were like, yeah, Iraqis love Tony Blair and pray for liberation and stuff. He got done as well for like fabricating quotes from interview subjects. He then turned his back on the pro-Iraq war set. He'd been like loosely affiliated with Harry's place at one point briefly. He wasn't the titular Harry. But at that point then, because he turned back on the right were like, oh, we've looked into this guy now all of a sudden, apropos of nothing, and it turns out he's a massive fantasist. So
whenabouts was that?
This was about 2011.
All right.
Again, there were murmurs before that. There were absolutely like people on left Twitter like just taking the piss out of him for it beforehand. But
so
2011
he
was
became,
when he turned on the right, and you suddenly had people like Nick Cohen and that who he had ideological beef with at that point, suddenly being like Oliver Camm, people like that as well, being like, actually, this guy's a complete fantasist. And they were on that occasion right. There was plenty of evidence to choose from, and it was at that point they chose to do the work to find it.
I think this guy must be all right. If Cam's against him,
normally that's reliable, but this is like the one case where like this guy's so dodgy that Oliver Camm was right.
Johann Hari innocent. Johann Hari's got to be left wing. I mean, he wrote the truths for Russell Brand.
So you've all heard it there. Jack leftist out. Jack saying Johann Hari innocent. He was also discovered at the same time using a fake identity, David Rose, on Wikipedia. And it had also been used to post incest erotica.
That's pure Cam on both fronts. He's got no moral high ground here.
I don't think it's plausible that Oliver Camm was behind that particular Wikipedia set of edits. I would like to make that clear.
I just mean it's his MO. I don't mean it was him. That particular one was him.
Jack, say allegedly or edit the word allegedly in, because like, Oliver Camm's the one psycho who will actually listen to this shit and like have us killed or something.
Get text to speech allegedly, yeah.
You can't talk about it at all. But yeah, it was enough of a scandal that British journalism had to do the thing American journalism often does, where like, we can't stand by this guy's reporting. He's having a break from journalism and he's going to take some classes and he's going to learn about and mend his ways. And he didn't. He moved to the States and just started a career as a writer instead, writing books. And they were really dodgy, and they still do the same stuff. You wrote a really dodgy book in 2018 called Lost Connections that was like basically, hey, don't take your meds. Like, I'm simplifying it a little bit, but not that much.
Oh, I read that one. That was pretty good. No, I don't. I've never read any of his shit, just to clarify. It's not about rock, for a start.
It gives the impression that he has some dirt on someone, because like when he started as an author, his first book, Chasing the Scream, the first and last days of the war on drugs, it might have been his publisher calling in every favour, but he had mad endorsements from like Elton John and Hillary Clinton and that. Like, this is one of the great authors of our time. Like, how the fuck
as
do they
we've
know
seen
about
this year,
British journalist?
As we have found out in 2024, Elton John will endorse any old shit. For example, a total piece of shit such as Keir Starmer. Also, Elton was like, saying that he thinks weed should be made illegal again in America the other day.
Right,
yeah, I mean, shows how American
anti-Elton John podcast.
It shows how like Americanized he is, because it's like, well, it's still fucking illegal over here, isn't it? But it's like I'm not, we've not been dealing with the side effects of fucking legalization over in your original ends, Elton.
It does also sound from interviews.
That's why the UK is a utopia.
He's probably going to die soon, so like, let's leave him to his mad opinions. Like,
yeah, he's like supporting Keir Starmer. Yeah, he's lost his eyesight now, apparently. Like, yeah, pretty bleak. He'll need an extra big pair of glasses now.
So the reason I compare it to Johann Hari anyway is just this thing where so many of the quotes and stories he tells don't quite seem plausible. But obviously, because they're mostly with civilians, you can't be like, that's definitely 100% made up. It's more the collective effect of them.
Yeah, I'll just go out and try and verify this story. I'll get a first-hand account from Melonhead number 69.
I mean, not those ones, but there's some, like, anyone with any journalistic training could probably identify a couple of his sources from what's in the book. I'll come to that in a bit.
Did you read the "you is a Jew" bit?
We'll come to that later, because that's something he brings in quite late into the book.
Okay. I was going to say, that seems like very made up to me. So there's a lot of ellipses in that paragraph.
He also front-loads a lot of the maddest shit that reflects most poorly on him personally. So literally the opening paragraph of the book is, I have to see everything for myself. I don't trust statistics. I don't trust columnists.
Well, I mean,
oh my God, he admits it.
Yeah.
I don't trust self-appointed spokesmen. I have to make up my own mind. So
in fairness, David Lammy appointed him. It's not self-appointed.
All his mates are just getting flack there. This is why I'm shivering again in Victoria Coach Station at 6 a.m. Right, you got up early in the morning. Well done.
Yeah.
So the first racial stereotypes come in then in the second paragraph of the book, where he sees all the people who are about at 6 a.m. African men in hoodies and pleather jackets. Polish meatheads gripping onto huge toolboxes.
That's like how I describe people
Giles
who
Corran,
are hawkish about Ukraine.
They probably had some nice chats in the Times HQ. Arab men in body warmers and fleeces pull out throwaway phones and dial those they know, as opposed to complete strangers.
Yeah, what I love to do is pull out my phone and dial a random sequence of numbers and just chat to whoever picks up. I love doing that, you know.
You want to buy some Sharia law?
That's right. Yeah, please. Can we get some Sharia law? You know.
This is something we're not going to have time to cover in great depth, but like he really thinks he's a great writer. And he's really the absolute opposite. So he's trying to paint these vivid pictures.
I will say,
sounds like a mad guy who's just read some novels and thinks he's immediately as good as them.
I will say that article about Cormac McCarthy fucking the teenager.
Yeah, that's exactly what was going through my head like earlier today when I first started reading this. It does genuinely the sort of junior writer who reads a lot of good writers and thinks all he has to do is crudely ape their style and he'll be exactly as good as them.
It does feel like he's really swinging for something with the style and just can't do it. It's a bit jarring to have a non-fiction book.
Yeah,
ostensibly non-fiction.
Well,
I'm not, to have it in this style.
Are we going to do the Ilford stuff, by the way?
The Ilford stuff, it comes in late on because I'm doing this in roughly the order it goes in the book, but we get into that. We are 100% getting to the Ilford stuff.
Good. The Sharia prostitutes of Ilford High Street or whatever.
There's a brief touch on Ilford before that, but the bit I sent you, that's quite late on. So he's griping about being up in the morning. It's cold, it's steam. That's the same for everyone else that's up in the morning in London on that particular day.
It does suck, to be fair. It does suck.
It's a bit colder at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. than it is at 9 a.m. even in the summer, obviously. But that's how weather works and employment trends. Just because you're a fucking journalist and you've never had to work a proper shift in your life. The next page is when it starts getting mad because he's still talking about all the people he sees and how it's waking up. He's not talking to these people, but he's
he's measuring them,
instinctively knowing exactly where they're from. It genuinely looks like he's just walking down the street being French, Arab, Bulgarian, French heterosexuals in drainpipe jeans specifically. So he scratched what I said about the French getting off lightly.
Yeah, it turns out, damn.
So he sees, among various other people, Polish, French, Bulgarian, so on, yelling and cursing and waving to their straggler. So he sees 3 Roma women and he decides he wants to talk to them.
How does he know they're cursing? Oh, because they're Roma women, does he think they're literally casting curses on him?
Probably thinks they're literally trying to curse people. He is a massive racist, and we know what British people are like when it comes to Roma.
Yelling
and
my
cursing.
Crystal ball. Or this journalist's hair will fall out now. Ha ha ha.
If that's how that happens, then they're very effective, and I take that. I will never say anything mean about them ever.
Yeah, I've always stood with the Roma community.
Yeah, you don't want to get.
That explains your good hairline. Yeah.
Thank you.
This bit, again, in the first
this has
pages
turned around
book,
so rapidly. People are like saying nice things about me now. Like it's just all.
Yes, that's true, but stop saying that on the episode because you're giving yourself more editing work.
It's fine. I can keep that in. No, no one's gonna. Yeah, whatever. Host, quick.
Yeah, so this next bit is the bit that makes Judah probably sound like the most deranged in the entire book, and it comes in the first few pages. So a few extracts here. Yelling and cursing and waving to their stragglers, the 3 Roma trudge forcefully out into the hissing rain. They're all pushing granny trolleys, each massively overloaded with plastic weave sacks and half a dozen crutches. They look like they know where they're going. I pace behind them in scuffed trainers like a thief, keying in what they see, and
then violently mug them.
Well, but they obviously think that. So he's describing his surroundings as he goes, but like there's various points. He's following them and wondering what they're looking for. The 3 Roma glance back, worried. They know they are being followed now. So he's followed and unsettled 3 women.
That is indeed the reaction women tend to have, being followed.
Yeah. Like he's unsettling people at like 6:30 in the morning. Like this is just an incredibly sinister thing to do.
Also,
it's
can I just say
he implies everyone else is doing like in London, like for the rest of the book.
Also, like they seem to know where they're going. Yes, that is how being out of the house tends to work. Mate, like, what are you on about?
Like, they didn't know what they're going.
You're not just aimlessly wandering.
There's more of them fresh off the boat, or something. You can't win, can you? Like,
like
you decide these people are suspect, which he's obviously done based on where he guesses they're from. Then whatever you do is going to look suspect in the eyes of a racist.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I am running along the pavement now, so they're already worried. They know they're being followed. He's physically running, so by implication they are too. I lose them at the mouth of a dingy underpass. The Roma women have scuttled below ground as fast as they can, like beetles.
The vermin they are.
Again, they're being chased by him, a young man sprinting after them in London in 6:30 in the morning. This is where I hover. Then I see the fiddler, who he mentioned briefly was like walking ahead of them before
on the
coming
roof.
out of the tunnel gloom. I can instantly tell he is just like that. Right, he's foreign. Okay, right. And he just starts badgering this guy, the fiddler. Why have you come to London? Sorry. When did you come to London? His brow creases, shocked, so he's unsettled as well. Why have you come to London? He is looking at me like I'm about to arrest him. He drops his case to his feet. Please talk to me, I'm not a policeman, said Ben Judah. That's the most not a policeman line you can possibly use. And he immediately relaxes and starts telling his life story then to Ben Judah. Like,
I left Romania because
the first sentence he allegedly
Axis
says...
power.
The very first sentence Ben Judah claims this guy said to him after being scared of him 10 seconds before. The harvest was bad. This was my last chance. I've come to London to Finland. He's reading off his backstory like an NPC in a bad computer game.
It's Oblivion. We're playing Oblivion IRL now. What the fuck?
This is
new laws meant we could not sacrifice child for crop harvest. It was dark time for my country.
I'm so glad that this is almost certainly made up or dubly embellished, because again it involves him sprinting after women in the street. So he has a brief awkward conversation with this guy who's obviously wary of him at this point. His voice gets in my head, and this is where he resolves to like go undercover for a bit. And really convincing in the long tradition of posh British people going undercover as homeless for a couple of days and being like, now I understand. I need to know what it feels like to be invisible. I need to know what it means to become unseen on plutocratic boulevards. I need to know what it is like to be glared at like a mangy half-man. This is why I'm wearing beggar's clothes, worn-out third-hand brogues, thin joggers, a torn puffer jacket, and a tight woolly hat.
A mangy half-man.
Yeah. The couples
not
flinch
even half
and avoid
biscuit.
me in the flow. So people are like avoiding him on the street, and I don't think that's because of how he's dressed. Like it's just like normal sort of relaxation, lazy day clothes for probably most people. He's just like,
sorry, only
this guy's got
full
bad
men
vibes.
for
Cross
me.
the street, please. So we're at page 18 in the book here, right? Which is actually about page 10 if you ignore all the intro stuff. and he's scared, like actually frightened, at least 7 people. At this point, I'm thinking this is shaping up to be a good horror novel. You know, the monster who doesn't realise he's a monster, but that fades away. So he goes through and he talks to some of the mostly Roma homeless people there, and they all kind of talk similar to each other. I don't mean they speak in a Romanian accent, but they say the same things about, like, this ethnic group do this and we're frightened of this ethnic group, and they all talk about them in this sort of like this nationality. If you meet like a racist Telegraph guy in the pub and he's like, well, of course the Germans do this and this country has a hot temper and stuff like that, it's all like, okay, but in this book everyone of every ethnicity, every social status speaks and thinks like that, and I'm like, how many of these are true, and how many of them are just Ben either massively paraphrasing what they're saying or just stating his own views in different guises, because they all have the same voice. It's mad.
It sounds like it's been written by Jeremy Clarkson.
It really does. It has the same vibe as these sort of Britain's gone balmy sort of thing. Certainly at this stage in the book, anyway. He does talk more about, like, oh, there are actual social problems later on, but he front loads the maddest shit, and his analysis later on is absolute crap.
Of course.
Page 20, like, there's so much weird stuff in it. Like, you can turn to any page pretty much that's got mostly text on it and find an absolutely deranged paragraph. Page 29. I write what I see. There are drunk women, confident and happy, on the arms of men, who shout in the tunnel the way drunk people do, but they really think about these poor people as their heels click and clack and they sway slightly. One glares at me, clutching her man, then hollers, "You may be a beggar, but you've still got a moleskin." Prince lets his eyes follow her wobbling ass. Well, if you've described her ass as wobbling, you were following it as well.
Yeah, mate, you were looking at it, you were checking her out.
Your
Come on.
criteria for, like, what ethnicity is this woman? How big is the butt? You know?
Yeah.
It's-
How could he? How
you
could
are
he
the weirdo
follow?
here.
How could he watch the eyes and the ass at the same time? It doesn't make sense.
You got to move your eyes quick.
This is where
Everyone
it
would
gets
be like, who's this weird cunt with the rapidly darting eyes going between that guy's eyes and that woman's ass?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, it's me. Again.
He looks in the mirror. He's like, oh shit.
The very next page, he introduces a big note of tension when a guy he calls Bright Eyes comes in, who is allegedly the debt collector's enforcer in this area. Right? So,
I'm Mr. Bright Eyes.
A Garfunkel head.
I've got to give you his very real description so you can picture what's about to happen. It gets very funny, don't worry. It starts with the bleak racism and gets
He's
funny.
a band comprised of Connor Oberst, Mike Moggis, Nate Walcott, and I think some other guy. I don't know. I don't know who the fourth member of Bright Eyes is, if there is indeed a fourth member.
He's a genuinely hard man, but he both looks and sings like Art Garfunkel for some reason. Bright Eyes has a sneer and the whitest skin of all of them, and his ears stick out either side of his piercing, thick, grey-green Roma eyes.
What the fuck is going on here? This is so weird.
His hypnotising gypsy eyes. Yeah, that's like a Stevie Nicks song, Roma Eyes or something. I saw a sexy gypsy.
Like, imagine describing me as having, like, Jew eyes.
I did the other... No, I didn't actually.
I mean, as I recall, there are some descriptions that veer
there's
that
some
way.
that are nearly as brutal as that, yeah. Both of Jewish people and of people's eyes separately.
Yeah, it's really weird.
The eyes bore into him with nervous, shivering energy. He's in his late 20s. He's also simple and jumpy. You can probably tell how someone's jumpy. That's an energy people have got. But how can you tell from looking at someone that they're simple? Other than, like, are they a journalist? Like,
I was going to say, National Union of Journalism lanyard, and then that's it.
He's Simple Jack, they call me.
He's simple and jumpy and moves his hands like he holds a blade. And this is the funny bit now. This guy immediately...
He's even stabbing people in his sleep. He just never stops making stabbing motions.
So this guy's just turned up on the scene. It's the first time he's ever set eyes on Ben Judah, dressed in his scruffiest clothes, pretending to be homeless. Who are you? Why are you here? These eyes dig into me and try to make me leave. Goes on about some beefcakes that are his enforcers. And then I make eyes at Fiddler, but he turns away. There are no best friends on the street. And then Bright Eyes just goes, "Are you a policeman?" So literally, about a minute into, like, the alleged organiser or enforcer of this group turns up, he's immediately like, you're a cop, aren't you?
Giving off insanely policey vibes.
And then Bright Eyes thinks maybe something else. Speak gypsy. And he then apparently says, without having had an answer yet, I'm frightened of foreigners. He lisps. Why frightened of foreigners? Ben fires back with the wit that's made him famous. Why did you come abroad then? When I'm with my big brother, I'm frightened of nobody, he snarls back, lifting up his jacket to show an enormous scar lacing his stomach, and paces off, his twitching hands dug into the front pockets of the barber. So that didn't happen.
No, that's
last bit where
that's fictional. I'm sorry.
One
I hate to say
week
it.
for a tour makes this terrifying man immediately make his excuses and leave because Ben Judah's intimidated him so much.
Ben Judah has owned him so hard that he has to leave.
He just brought out the calipers and the guy was like, what is this strange weapon? Something from Japan, perhaps? Far Eastern.
My one weakness, categorization in pseudoscience.
Your haplotypes are inferior and you must leave.
That is basically a Disco Elysium line, to be fair.
Yeah,
so,
it is pure Measurehead, isn't it?
I know.
Measurehead, but it's like a weedy white journalist.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Imagine Ben Judah saying, someone is betraying their degeneracy.
He front loads this stuff, some of these stories aren't plausible at all, and that has you looking at all his stories, and a lot of them you think at the very least, he's clearly had some conversations with some people, but a lot of these are embellished. It's mad. So the next page, the fiddler starts going on about why do the English hate the Romanians so much? Is it because the Romanians were allied to Hitler in the Second World War?
No one knows that. I'm sorry, no one in Britain knows that. I'm sorry,
that's definitely why. It's because I'm anti-fascist that I hate this race of people. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's it.
Things the average British person knows about Romania. Georgi Hagi was great in the
player.
90s. Great player. And
no idea.
Too many
but
of them
then I'm not
now.
the average British person.
That's the Romanian frame of reference for your average English person.
Is that where Andrew Tate and his brother live?
Yes, that's right.
That's where they relocated to.
That's the other thing I know about Romania.
It was easier
sex
for them to get away with. To be fair, the sex traffickers in question are British.
Yeah, just to be very clear.
And Romania did arrest them.
Sex trafficking to Romania. And they did do a better job. Yeah, the DPP here weigh a few accusations against Andrew, at least. So
say what you will about Romania. Sex trafficking does appear to be illegal there.
just to be clear.
Yeah, but lots of people say stuff like that in this book. Why do they hate Romanians so much, or whatever national? Some of them say it about the Polish people. A lot of them start musing unprompted, why does the Queen not help us? And
because she's a lazy old bitch.
Yeah, I can certainly imagine a couple of new immigrants or people who are down on their luck, don't have a roof over their head, can't watch the news or anything like that, might have a weird idea of what the Queen, or now the King, is or does, because they don't know or really care about the intricacies of the British system and haven't lived with it all their lives. But the
what
idea
does the
that
Queen do?
Half the people who...
Well, the Queen's dead, for one.
She just shits. All she does is she just shits on the only Jewish state. She's just a bigot.
Yeah. The problem with that is, given her
family
tree, we can't assume that she's the good kind of anti-Israel.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, my theory is she thinks that Israel's a Muslim country.
Well, it's probably because of the King David bombing and shit like that, isn't it?
Yeah. The quote was she thought that every Israeli was a terrorist or a war criminal or something.
Which,
this is what I think. But I would.
There was a British imperialist reason to think that as well.
Yeah. I think she's probably thinking back to the garden parties when she was a kid and what the Queen mum taught her and stuff. And it was it's good to stick it to the Jews sometimes, isn't it? But people just keep saying this stuff, and I can imagine a couple of people might have said that, but the idea that half the people he speaks to all have these weird specific views about what the Queen should do that no one would reasonably have at all, really. Most countries see it as unusual to have a queen or a monarch, a proper one.
If they're from Romania, they've been a republic for a while now.
Yeah.
And that makes me think that maybe one person said it and he thought it's good, so he's ascribed it to anyone with anything in common with them throughout the book, or that he's just made it up. So the next chapter after this is adventures with the Roma homeless community. He's like, I've got to see both sides of this, so I spoke to a policeman. And this is where it gets a bit dodgy, where I got a little bit careful about how I describe this, because he goes to a police station, talks to a copper about his experience as police in that area, okay, the one he's just been homeless in. This copper goes off like, oh, here's what the Romanians are like, here's what the Africans are like, here's what the Pakistanis are like, and so on.
I sent this to Jack on Facebook, yeah.
So he does quite a lot of this, and then after a good 2 or 3 pages of this, at the end of it, imagine how smug Ben Judah is when he wrote this. The policeman is black. He's Nigerian. Immigrant in London since 1989. But he does not tell me this in the police station. I mean, presumably, see, he was black. But presumably
he was able to figure that out.
The wool right of my eyes.
Suddenly goes colourblind at the least convenient moment. It's such a sort of, didn't expect that, did you? You thought he was white English, but no.
Damn, but what if people could be victims and perpetrators of the system? What if that? Who knows? No one can know.
What if there were all sorts of complex issues about class consciousness and various different angles?
How
colorism transcends cultures. And,
how the fuck did he know that the guy was Nigerian if he didn't tell him?
No. So what happens after that is he then meets the policeman off duty and talks to him more informally. So that's when he actually learns the guy's background. That's when he learns that he's Nigerian. He's been in London since 1989, and the guy has what I would say would be quite a specific backstory, where he's come to London as a young man, fed loads of lines about how it's really easy to make money in London, and he struggles and he's homeless for a few months, and then spends about a decade working like really shit, brutal dishwasher jobs in absolute scumbag London restaurants where he's treated like shit by everyone, has a grim life, and then just on a prayer manages to get a job with the police. Now that's not maybe as implausible as some people might think, because obviously the Met keep trying to recruit more black officers and just failing, or alienate him really quickly once they've hired them. So it's quite plausible that the guy might find his way into the police force, but it's a really specific backstory they give for him. That's relevant because what he then goes on to do is relays a lengthy anecdote from the guy about a situation where someone called into the station that there was like a woman naked in the street, and he talks as if it's a really funny story, like, oh, so of course all the police available on duty at the moment like jumped in the nearest cop car and zoomed round to try and be the first to get there, right?
Just boys being boys. We like to have a laugh here at the Metropolitan Police.
and then he's there, he's like, oh, we got there and she was fit as well, but then he's like, oh, but it turned that she was talking about her kid, and I can't go into detail here for reasons, like, because I've got more responsibility than Ben Judah has, but, like, it turns out that she was having, I guess, a major psychotic break, and had killed her baby and not realised it in quite grim circumstances.
Oh, lads, oh,
and then, bird. Again, then does the same pullback and reveal, oh, she was West Indian as well.
Oh, the plot thickens.
I'm reading this and I'm thinking, based on everything that's come before, this is obviously a fake story. If there was a West Indian person that had killed her baby in such a distinct way,
British press would have gone berserk.
The British press would have gone mad.
Yeah.
So I looked it up with just the region of London it was in and a couple of identifying details of the crime, which are really obvious from the way the story's told. Again, I'm being very vague here, but that immediately brought up a story from 2004 of this. So coming on 15 years before the book came out, you know, it was a historic crime, and I guess that was probably before, like, the peak sidebar of shame and stuff had really kicked in. So it might well have been reported for a day and then not been a big media scrum, I guess, if it was a busy time in the news as well. So I was really surprised that that was a real story, but then I thought, look, I've, from that, been able to find some details of the crime and find detail. She didn't go to prison because she was, like, so obviously struggling with her mental health. They sectioned her, and there were, like, big failings of the support system she was supposed to have had. Again, that's partly presumably why it didn't get reported, because it was like an austerity death before people realised they were happening. But we've identified the crime, we've identified the person, and I'm thinking, look, I probably couldn't quite do this, and wouldn't really want to. But we've got a specific policeman, a black guy from Nigeria, an immigrant, in the Met Police in 2004 who Ben Judah has discussed his distinctive accent at length as well, that would be really, really, really easy to narrow down who that guy is as well. Who's just been like talking about how him and all his mates were excited to see a naked woman at work. It's like, it's fucking, it's so irresponsible. Like, Ben Judah's a journalist. How is he doing this shit?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Legal
department on it.
Journalist, but like, how has he got less of a grasp of avoiding jigsaw identification and these sort of things, and the number of people he could get in trouble or make targets through this reporting? He doesn't seem to have given it a second thought. He's just like, yeah, I'm a cool writer, you know, I'm George Orwell in the mean streets. It's so fucking insane. So there's that, which is like probably the bleakest thing in the book. But every single person he speaks, this is the point I've got in my notes, though I've noticed that it's not just most of the people, but every single person he talks to at this point in the book has described a hierarchy of racism. Like, the black immigrants are at the bottom, and then the Eastern Europeans are slightly above that, and there's hierarchies within them. Like, every single person he speaks to allegedly outlines very similar, like, this lot at the bottom, we're above them, this lot are above us, and then the white people at the top, you know, even if it's like Australians and Irish people, are like...
Yeah, damn, fuck them. Why are they at the top?
Really? So you've had about 5 different minorities and about 10 different people, and they've all said the exact same thing, almost word for word to you. He's not even trying to hide it, really. And again, with that now in mind, having at this point been like, fuck, everyone he does is like this. There's a bit where, so he's talking about there have been lots of fights in the area. He's interviewing people who work in the shops nearby. There were 2 Romanian and 1 Irish, I think, and the fight happened at 6 a.m, and the Irish won with the brick. Now the Romanians are too much. There are a lot, and they are all troublemakers because they don't have house. Look at that windows over the road. The Romanians break in 3 times to go in those closed down flats. They are mostly drunks. Majority of them are now in this area, bringing the violence. Everyone talks like this in the book at this stage. Every single person. Obviously, the ones who are Romanians are like, well, the Irish are causing trouble. They're fighting us, but they're like, we are scared of them. Irish, they are mostly, you know, they're all speaking in the same voice. If that makes sense. He puts a couple of misspellings in when it's like Romanians talking and stuff. But like this just doesn't pass the smell test at all. Like,
I also just generally think you shouldn't write accents in text. I feel like you just shouldn't do that.
For large swathes of the book, he doesn't. And then sometimes they'll do like a long 2 or 3 page stretch of quotes from one person, and he'll put like heavily accented 2 sentences at random points within that, and it's like, has this guy got an editor? Is the editor equivalent of Ben Judah? Like, how does this happen? Really, like, we know why it got rave reviews, because he's friends of all the reviewers in all the broadsheets, and they know he's like a guy on the up. But like, they should have fucking knocked the star off on professional pride grounds, really. Like, this is something you'd be embarrassed to submit, and that the publisher should be embarrassed of putting out in this state.
I think it sounds like you just can't cope with the gritty reality of the streets.
The grainy, hard-bollocked reality.
Yeah, exactly. It's like The Wire or something.
Yeah, it's just like The Wire. It's like The Shield.
That's it.
Somehow more racist than the characters in The Shield.
Somehow balder than Michael Chiklis.
Like, fucking the character Shane Vendrell would read this and be like, bit much, mate. Like,
yeah, I was trying to do a bit of a Goggins earlier with my slave trader voice.
I got a bit of that.
Came across. Yeah.
Anyway.
Always a good person to copy if you're doing an absolutely mad bit, I think. There's a couple of bits like this where I'm just like, why is he relaying this? Because most of it is like, here's the gritty current state of London. So here, in the middle of criticising fucking the Blair government's policy, which, fair enough. Like, at the bus stop, I watched a wrecking claw chew into a corridor balcony. He's talking about, like, buildings being demolished. Behind me, I hear the lilt they call street, the London voice, almost Jamaican. There are 2 teenagers, flirting and unaware, involved in their own conversation. He is brown, a stocky Punjabi, with a ball head, perfect teeth and thick beard.
What kind of ball? We need some clarification.
Is it American football or what? What we got going on here?
I hope he just means it's very round. Under a slightly tipped Chicago Bulls baseball cap in a grey hoodie. She is slight, long-headed, and white.
What, did she get her skull elongated like Brendan? What the fuck are you talking about?
Just call her a fucking horse girl. Get it over
Why
with.
the long face? In black leggings and sleeveless black puffer, and pressing her upper lip down, suppressing a smile, she pretends to disagree and twirls herself round to please him, lifting herself off the heels of her feet, knowing where his eyes will fall, because that's where Ben Judah's eyes are falling right now. Why? And again, she just moves on from that. There's no actual relevance to that. He's just like,
ignore
people
teenagers
having a snog, had a good look at them. On we go now, back to the politics.
Yeah, okay.
It just comes across like such a creepy voyeur in this book.
Okay, some teenagers were flirting with each other. Great. Yeah. You're an adult. That has nothing to do with you. That has nothing to do with you.
That happened in London when it was 90% white as well. Because teenagers. Yeah. Teenagers are horny.
Yeah,
it's like a defining universal trait.
Yeah, and also as a presumably an adult, I don't know. Ben Judah looks
staring at teenagers and pretending to disapprove, but actually just like checking them out. You're doing that right now as well.
Just leave teenagers alone, man. Leave children alone. You know, that's just my general advice.
In fact, I go so far as to say that Ben Judah is a...
We'll throw in a beep.
But that first bit, behind me, I hear the lilt they call street. That's like Ram Album Club coded. That's like fucking David Aronovich makes a big performative. I've just listened to a rap album.
Yo, what up, dog? I've just heard straight out of Compton. That shit is fire.
So, again, I'm skipping around a bit here in the book, getting my highlights. So I've put in my notes one of the most inappropriate racial characterizations in the book, and now I've got to find that one on the page, because there might be more than one. So he's talking to some pickers, litter pickers at Transport for London stations, mostly the underground, like the sort of overground parts of the underground, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Slightly further out, mostly. These people have a grim job, and he's talking to them about their grim job, and these seem like some of the more plausible interviews in general in the book. Like, it sounds like a fairly accurate representation of the good and bad things about their job and what it's like to be in that sort of employment long term. And he's talking then about people going on the tracks, either by mishap or mostly by suicide, and how that's obviously traumatising for everyone at the station and the drivers and stuff. And that's a good point. Obviously, that is trauma. That's one of the worst things you can see in any job. So that day I was working with the Bulgarian picker, and they went to us, go and get some water for the teams who have come to take away her body. And that was when I saw her. I came to the platform and the body was there under a plastic sheet. And then the wind blew and I saw it. There were huge tears in the body and you could see the bone. She was a Portuguese. She looked like a mixed race.
What the fuck are you talking about? Excuse me, no.
Seeing like a horrific victim of being hit at high velocity by a fucking train. Someone who's like died instantly, whose body is mutilated.
Just blood
in his
and
universe,
guts
everyone
everywhere.
he speaks to. Like,
it's like,
maybe
that's
the guy he was
racialised that, yeah.
Start racially categorising her like he does. But even if that's a real quote, why would you put it in the book?
He goes up and dips his finger in the blood, and he's like, "Aha! The smell of Portugal is upon me."
Yeah. The creepiest thing as well is like 5 pages before that, something like that. He's been like talking about, I can't remember if it's the same or one of the other pickers, being like, the mixed race girls are very beautiful. Like, it adds a whole... Again, I think he's probably making at least one of those 2 quotes up, but it's just so fucking weird and inappropriate and jarring.
Also, like, who's talking to each other like this with people
Everyone,
you've just met?
Everyone in London, according to Ben Judah. Literally everyone.
I don't know, I've been to London. I've been to London somewhat recently. No one was chatting to me like this. Fuck. Like, what's going on?
The mixed race girls, they're beautiful this time of year.
It must be because I'm a Saracen of some kind. They don't like doing that with me.
Yeah, that's how we white English talk to each other. Just guys shit. You wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
Most of the book, he either gives someone like a fake first name, or he gives them like a nickname he's come up himself with, that are often not that flattering, like
Melonhead. Was that just what he calls all black people?
Those are his descriptions of their physical appearance.
That's a description of a skull, not a nickname,
making a claim that the guy had a head shaped like a melon, which is really racist, but not calling him that.
What kind of melon are we talking?
Yeah, like...
There are some races of races of melons, but it's more racist to talk about in relation to black people, although I think it should probably be avoided altogether.
Yeah, I feel like describing people's skull shape is inappropriate in basically every context.
If you're doing it in every sense, you kind of already made the mistake. That there's no way you can
You might as well just mention watermelon specifically.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised he didn't, to be honest.
It's not your daddy's phrenologist.
You've gone that deep in.
Yeah. But in this section, he gives them, I think, vaguely plausible. It comes across like they're the nicknames the co-workers have given each other. So he's describing two people, a guy in his 50s and a guy in his 20s, who've worked together for years and have broadly friendly work dynamic and so on, both Ghanaian backgrounds, so they've got stuff in common, and relaying that broadly accurately. But then he's publishing quotes from the younger one that basically say yeah, my colleague, the older one, he stick his pig shit. Not in his exact words, but it's really quite...
Free copy of the book for both of them.
Yeah.
With the page bookmarked.
I don't know how many of the people in this book would know exactly what the interviews were for, if they happened, or if they would bother to either be sent a copy or to buy a copy when it came out. Probably not all of them, or even many of them, but... these are ones in full-time employment, so some of the more plausible ones to be yes, I will spend a tenner on a book that I'm in. And it's this guy, this nice bloke working a horrible job, who's going to get home and be like, oh, my best friend at work basically said this guy doesn't understand the concept of a subscription and is really stupid. And specifically, he's very uneducated. Oh, no, this is Judah's words. He's very uneducated. He can barely even read. He hates everything about London. Nobody knows why, but he's ended up marrying a frumpy Jamaican mama in White City. And basically accuses him of being a fantasist about a home he's allegedly redoing in Ghana. And again, this is one of the people he's most sympathetic to and gets into their actual experiences the most in the whole book. He's just casually yeah, this guy's a fucking idiot. I spoke to his younger colleague, he said he was a fucking idiot as well.
And his wife
the absolute contempt for everyone he speaks to comes through, even when he's trying to do the opposite. It's amazing.
Yeah.
He's too uneducated to understand the concept of a subscription, is the quote from his co-worker that he specifically leaves in.
That's what a thing that FFF wrote for my bit earlier about the Welsh.
Please don't explicitly compare the work of FFF with the work of Ben Judah.
I wrote a lot of it, by the way.
Just to be clear, did you write the racist parts, or?
Yeah, all of that was my contribution.
Yeah.
No, I wrote a draft based on the original speech from Django Unchained. FFF rewrote it, and then I rewrote that. That's the way. So it was a true collaboration. But I probably did most on balance. No, I don't know. He made it a lot longer than it was. Anyway,
the next bit I've just put as annotated in capital letters, demented. So
nice.
Find the exact... Because this is the expanded version of one of the ones that's picked up in the article. He's talking about a rundown area that is where some of the dealers hang out, I guess. Welcome to the bush favelas. The gang leader does not like this name. He thinks gangs are for little boys. He likes to call the operation his business.
Stringer
himself
Bell.
A boss. He's
just
Caribbean, not like Stringer Bell. He's Caribbean but looks pure African, flabby more than muscled, with a fold of skin at the back of his melon head. He is short.
The melon head thing.
The first thing I notice is his lips. They are chapped, peeling, burnt black from non-stop skunk smoking. How do you know that? How's the first thing you notice? The reason for why his lips look like they do.
That's bollocks.
And his skin is coarse and dry. I already know his street name. And this, I'm sure, is his very real street name. Moses X.
Oh, fucking Christ.
Yeah. That is the blackest name I've ever heard. Big respect to this extremely black man. And I think it's funny that, speaking of, I think it's really funny that, he can't tell the difference between, the people from any of the many constituent nations of the continent of Africa, but he can easily tell the difference between the respective types of black you get from Africa and the Caribbean. This one's a Caribbean for sure.
South Africa, Liberia, Ghana, all the same, all exactly the same, no changes at all, but the Caribbean man looks completely different. Even though this guy, he says, looks pure African, he's actually Caribbean, so that would imply he's actually not got a clue. But if you go up to one of the first black guys after the railway workers, one of the only black guys you speak to in the whole book, and you specifically write the sentence, the first thing I notice is his lips. Fucking dodgy ground, man. And this is repeated every 5 pages, 10 pages for the whole book. You just say something that on its own would be That's a bit dodgy.
It's one of those things where, like, if he'd done it once in the book, it would be like, okay, maybe you shouldn't have left that in, but at least it's not repeated. But it's every single fucking person at a certain point.
So around this point, again, I've not put a page on this one, but he starts talking about how people smell. Like, about the smell. Sometimes it's like the smell of the work clothes in their bag are sweaty and stuff. And
for fuck's sake,
sometimes...
I've already forgotten that woman's viral time in the sun
That's
has gone.
literally what I put down, though. Like, if no one has ever been fucking vindicated more than that woman, like, quickly. The olfactory politics of literature or whatever it was.
That's it.
Yeah, but, like... Part of what people were saying
like, I've already forgotten.
Trying to explain to the thickos why that was like legitimate academic study is like, look, there's been like multiple major worldwide memes based on the preconception that Indian people smell bad. There's about 3 or 4 different stereotypes like that, not that exact one, but like in the same vein in this book alone, from like Mr. Educated at elite British universities, top journalist on the way up guy. Like, this stuff's really widespread all over the Western world. It's not, yeah. He calls the next guy, a giggly guy, a caramel-skinned Jamaican, a beautiful man.
Nothing wrong with that.
At least he's beautiful, you know. Like
round big eyes, light and sour as he speaks, with a centimetre of tattoo under each of them, the teardrop under one, and the map of Africa on the other.
What, like a little map of Africa under one eye?
Yeah. His voice careers up and down in an affected black American accent that you often hear in Shepherd's Bush. He dresses old yardie style, and that requires a denim jacket. He's just repeating all the racial stereotypes his dad or one of his uncles or something has taught him. Like,
so
I'm an author now.
He says he was born in London, but did he like go and then live in America for years or something?
He worked in America for a bit. That might have been immediately after this book. I don't know.
Okay, well, he had to get out of there for many people he'd introduced.
All the very real gangland figures that he encountered here were like, hang on, he's been mean about us in his book.
Yeah, what was that guy called?
I could put up with him reporting what we were up to, but his descriptions of our skull and our neck folds were a bit much.
The fold at the back of my head that he described in great detail.
What was that guy called? Like Martin Luther X?
Moses X.
Moses X.
Yeah.
Shout out to Moses X if you want to come on this podcast.
Right. From 2020 to 2024, he worked at the Atlantic Council.
Of course.
I think,
he's worked abroad a few times, shorter periods. It's all think tank type stuff, but like.
I don't know what they do at the Atlantic Council.
His moving to America was after this book.
I don't know what they do at the Atlantic Council, but I have a feeling it involves the measurement of skulls.
Well, yeah, relative to the Atlantic. That's how you measure skulls, right?
It's how they brief out the new racial stereotypes to all the different Atlantic countries.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are the main contributor to that.
Yeah,
so
there's basically 2 countries, and they've both got a nice solid base of like people primed for new racial stereotypes to embrace at all times.
Yeah, God.
So at this point, I think the book gets slightly less terrible, by which I mean he's making a really cursory attempt to be like, here are the problems these people face. Really surface level analysis, nothing
boring,
you've ever heard before,
more racism.
It's less attempting to demonise them. But it was about this point I found the Vice documentary, which is actually linked to in that article. It's on YouTube. The website's taken it down, but it's on YouTube. So at first I thought, oh, he's done this just before the book, and he's maybe based the book on, he's turned what he found into a book. And then I was like, no, hang on, this came out at the end of 2016, so he's probably done it either concurrently or just after. I think what's actually happened, having watched it and read a lot more of the book than I had when I watched it, is that he's done the book and some of his pals at Vice liked it and were like, do you want to cover some of the same sort of territory in a 25-minute documentary for us? And when I say the same territory, there's stunts he does in the book. Stunts, like he goes and finds like he finds like a DOS house for like migrant workers and
he
stays there
sets
for
fire
a night.
to his ass,
and then
they
he does
do
exactly the same thing.
Just launches himself in a rocket into central London. with a Confederate flag flying out the back, just to indicate he's about to be really racist.
Ontologically evil Knievel. But yeah, he sort of repeats the sort of go into a DOS house thing, but like on camera this time. And that's actually really ethically dodgy for reasons that will eventually become clear here. Like, this is what I was really having trouble figuring out. So they're done for slightly different audiences as well, even though they're broadly covering the same territory. He's clearly aiming the Vice documentary at a younger crowd who are not likely to be racist themselves and who are going to be a bit more open in large parts of the UK to like multiculturalism, I guess, more used to it, as opposed to it being like the change that they're against. Whereas the book is a bit more like, this is for readers of the Times and the Telegraph and all the papers that are going to give me a good review that all my friends work for and stuff. So it's a bit more like, yeah, I'm being race realist. How do you like that? But they cover the same subject matter, but the differences are really interesting from that perspective. Like, in the documentary, he mentions, like, I guess, Romanian heritage. He certainly indicates that his family lived there for a while. But there's no mention of that in his book whatsoever at any point, even when he spends like 50 pages hanging out with Romanians.
I think he's supposed to be able to speak Romanian to some extent.
He speaks a very limited amount, yeah.
I imagine his Romanian is kind of equivalent to my Turkish at a certain point, having not practiced it for ages.
He doesn't want to reveal his Romanian heritage because he knows all us good patriotic Brits will hold the Nazi collaboration against him.
Yes. Yeah. So in the documentary, he has what comes across like a friend of his, a Romanian guy called Matai, who speaks obviously fluent Romanian and sort of uses him as, in kayfabe, his fellow migrant and in real life like his interpreter and sort of fixer. But there's one bit where he turns up to like try and get casual labour work, and there's loads of people hanging around trying to get casual labour work. You've seen a scene like that before at some point, I think. His mate's like lurking around in the background, I guess secretly filming people, dressed in like a black hat and like black warm clothes. And everyone sees him and they're all like, immigration's here. This guy's immigration. So again, they clearly immediately mark them as not on the level, but just not quite in the right way.
Yeah.
But they all like leave the area quickly and like no one gets any work, presumably, as a result of this. He is a Fed of sorts, just not an actual immigration official. They then get into like a DOS house, one of these places that puts like 7 people in a room that could just about fit 2 at a pinch, sort of thing, just like bunk beds in shifts, grim place. He poses as a Ukrainian to do it. His logic being he speaks hardly any Romanian, but he speaks a larger amount of Russian, so it's more plausible for him to say like I'm from Ukraine, and he claims to be from Donetsk, and so it's just about be plausible in that timeline to be like, I want to make sure I'm well away from Russia. But that's his cover story. But like they immediately, because he's from Ukraine and that's not in the EU, go run in the DOS house. It's like, okay, I need to see your documents, and says to him like, you can show me them in the morning, but I need to see your documents. And they basically shit it, and there's like a 2-second clip of them seeming to have an argument with each other, like him and his mate, but like they don't really add context to that. But like when they go into the place and they're looking at the place and then talking about it afterwards, Ben Judah's literally doing, they're like, all those people crammed in that, can't do that, that's illegal, sort of thing. Like,
What do you mean they're killing you? That's against the law.
Yeah, he's actually acting shocked that they do this. Again, we now know that he'd done it a few months previously, the exact same thing. Probably not the exact same DOS house, but like, he'd done the same thing and knew those conditions existed in his book that had already been released, and it was the main thing he was known for. So he was actually feigning surprise at this. But there's a line in the documentary that's like, even Matai was yelled at for looking foreign when they're sort of kicking off about British people. Well, you've kind of put him in that position by having him masquerade as a fresh immigrant in front of racist people.
Yeah.
A Vice documentary.
Didn't he check out some really exotic locales in that documentary?
You'll like this. He goes to a farm. He talks about good farms and bad farms before that, and what he means is the bad farms are the ones doing like actual literal modern slavery. So if your farm's not doing modern slavery...
Why, howdy, my name is Ben Judah. I come here to purchase some of your slaves. if I can just get a little inspection of their skull shape, so I know what I'm purchasing here.
He's looking for student athletes, not slaves, please.
Please
get it correct, otherwise...
Also, that I shouldn't have said here there. I should have said here. But doesn't he go to Ilford in that as well?
Yeah, sorry. Oh fuck yeah. The Doss house is in Ilford, so like there's literally like screen caps of him saying to the actual dirt poor migrants staying 6 or 7 to a room. So what's it like in Ilford then? Like,
wait, 6 or 7 to a room? Are we sure it's not that Labour MP who's the landlord? Jazz Atwell, yeah. We're 100% sure.
Who the landlord is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's life like in Ilford? I'm like, fucking, he's stealing our bet. You can't do this.
There's another Ilford bit in the book, isn't there?
Oh yeah, we'll get to that because that needs its own thing. The documentary, he speaks to some farm workers at one of the good farms, which is still like hard labour and working really long hours, often working 6 or 7 days, working 6 or 7 days most weeks, but they're at least like earning okay money to live on. And he's just like immediately like, yes, these are good, hard-working people. These are a proper like Protestant work ethic. I like them. They're good vibes, working hard. They clarified that they're not gypsies. You know, fantastic.
Well, if they're Protestants, then they won't be anti-Semitic. So that's good news.
They are Polish, so they're probably not actually Protestant, right? But they've put a little bit of effort to like justify their existence to Ben Tudor, and he's immediately like, yes, these are the noble foreigners. I like these ones.
That is a very British thing.
Hugely so.
I was going to say that a big part of this book seems to be the sort of noble savage archetype, but rather than being noble, they're more sort of criminal
grotesque.
Scum.
Treats them as grotesque.
Yeah.
It's like how like an art historian would like point out the gargoyles on the building. He uses the same language to like describe the people he walks past. It's sick.
Yeah.
At the end of the documentary, out of nowhere, he's like, yeah, populism's winning everywhere, and is there any way back from it?
Corbyn!
Very 2016 thing to just be like, and the reason for all of this bad shit, horrible shit you've seen in the last 20 minutes? Populism.
Crubbins. He's done it. He's done it again.
A way to blame it, sort of give splash damage to the left without the left having any involvement in anything we've seen. The credits for this were really interesting. There's 2 camera people credited separately from Matai, who I think was using the camera in like some of the undercover scenes. But there's scenes at the start where he's interviewing a couple of homeless people, and it's being presented as if it's undercover and stuff. But like, one of the guys he's interviewing is like staring directly at the camera while he's talking to Ben, who's sat right next to him, pretending to be homeless. So it's obviously staged. They're sort of presenting a different reality to the viewers than they did to the actual interview subjects and stuff. So you wonder how much of it was undercover at all, if it's not actually a kind of reality-based drama. There's 3 researchers credited on this short documentary, one of whom I wasn't able to verify.
Johan Harry summing it after the truths ended.
Almost as funny as that. I wasn't able to verify if the obvious connection is true here, but one of the credited researchers is Rachel Judah, who now works several years on as a BBC journalist.
Nepo baby.
I think it's probably a spectacular Nepo baby family that has 2 of them, but can't 100% confirm that. I wasn't able to find out. They don't really engage with each other on social media.
Guilty. So I didn't know he had a sister. Maybe I would have reconsidered that joke about.
This is the bit I've got to be really careful on, right? Because immediately after watching that, I went back to the book, and the very next chapter of the book, a chapter called Forward Focus, if you want to look at the ebook, is...
I couldn't open it, by the way. I don't know how to open an epub.
They are really awkward to do. You probably need to download a program to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't really think of that. And it doesn't display all the pictures right, because EPUBs are shit. But anyway, I went back to it, and the first chapter I picked up was one that was doing the same thing. It was like him and an interpreter going to a Doss house.
They're translating from street to English for him.
I'm not sure that's possible.
From the unintelligible jive of the common Londoner.
Just not the idea of a street translator in London.
I just think, like everything, the Ron Paul 2008 political campaign lives in my head and becomes relevant to everything. But like when they found his 20-year history of extremely racist newsletters, Ron Paul or whoever he'd paid to write racist stuff for him that month was like, the fast black youths today, they listen to the primal rhythms of the jungle. Just these insane
fucking hell.
Some of what he says about black people in this book is a toned down version of this. Like it is conjuring up the same imagery. You know, they don't talk like they're supposed to. They talk like the people they see on the telly, not like proper British people. But I thought, reading this chapter at first anyway, that he'd done it in tandem with the Vice documentary, so he was literally writing about the exact same events that would air on Vice a few months later. Because he talks about the interpreter that was driving around with him, and I'm thinking, well, we've seen an interpreter drive around with him, so he's talking about Mate. He doesn't name him, but starts talking about him being a recovering conspiracy theorist who sometimes works for the police. The police leave him to take witness statements. So I'm thinking at this point, he's just outed a police source and basically said he's a mad crank. And the guy starts saying some fairly racist stuff as well. The thing about gypsies, it's just the lie. It's the way they always lie. They have this energy. It sucks it out of me. It leaves me dry, and with the whores, it's the same. The lies are always the same. I'm drained with them, drained. But this isn't the Ilford whores, these are separate. No, these are separate incidents. It becomes clear a couple of pages later there's a separate incident, a separate doss house elsewhere in London, and he's got a bloke he doesn't know as well as Matai to interpret for him, who's come across like a massive wanker. But because he does these two, and he doesn't clarify that the extremely similar events in both are different in either the book or presumably because it happened later in the documentary, it has you briefly thinking, like, is this guy that we watched on the documentary, framed to look nice, actually a massive racist? No, he isn't. Is he a police tout? No, he isn't. But they really make him sound like it, just through, like, really sloppy, lazy repeating of work. But in this one, this is where you can tell for certain that it was a different incident, is he specifically claims to be Russian. Presumably that didn't go very well, and that's why he's changed it to Ukrainian in the next one. Some of the people he'd run into would have a bit of a grudge against Russians, like some of the Romanians had been in Russia before or something.
Get over it.
But again, this is assuming he met any of these people, and any of the incidents in this book are real. He wakes up in the doss house with everyone else at 5 a.m. There is a groaning and a coughing and a heaving of 14 men trying to make it to the bathroom. There's only one of these, of course. How they swear, the lodgers, and rap on the door, grunting in foul-breathed peasant Romanian. That's not... To tell you what this book is like, that passage did not stand out to me when I read it earlier. I've gone to that page for something different entirely, and that's immediately been like, whoa, how did I miss that one? There's so many little weird shits like that. You become numb to it after a while and only pick out the absolute worst ones. So he's basically stealing valor here. Well, you know, he was more in the documentary when he was pretending to be both Ukrainian and from Ilford. The two most noble backgrounds you can have.
Gapes would respect you so much if you were a Ukrainian Ilfordian, the two best races.
So he's describing his elaborate plan, his backstory, where he's going to keep it simple, but then if they challenge him, he's going to say he's really a university-educated guy who's fleeing Russian conscription and stuff. And then after all this outlining this, he says the following: "My name, Alexei," and that's it. That's his cover story that he gives. But then the next sentence is the most audacious in the whole book. I quote this verbatim: "Londoners think they can pick out European migrants by their faces. This is rubbish." What have we spent the previous 134 pages doing? Well,
it's not the. To be fair, it's not the face. It's the shape of the skull.
Yeah, he's been picking out the shape of the skull. Yeah.
Completely different.
He's mostly done it to non-Europeans.
Yeah.
He doesn't consider Eastern Europe, like most British people, he doesn't consider Eastern Europeans to be like proper Europe.
He knows from one look at a skull when someone is from the country of Africa.
Yeah. Londoners think they can do this sort of thing. To be fair, he's done it with French people earlier as well.
Yeah, but they're not European, really, are they?
Nobody's more European than the proud Englishman.
That's right.
Mike Gates.
And so, the moment someone is not English, Londoners can sense it, but not identify what. And so they make their judgments based on clothes. He's giving so much away about his own methodology here. Clothes are very powerful things.
You see like a pasty Russian guy in a hoodie, you're like, he's from Jamaica.
He's literally outlining his methodology here.
Isn't there literally a bit
he genuinely starts to explain. Someone who looks a little darker than the English, with features a little more rounded or angular at a glance, the Londoner, not me, the Londoner, will think is French or Italian.
Isn't that the fucking publication that did it? The Londoner?
Yeah.
We should ask them how they define Italian.
Maybe this was coming up on Google searches and they're like, right, we need to fucking protect our brand here. But put on a hoodie, a puffer jacket and a tracksuit, the Londoner will see a Romanian, a Bulgarian, or an Albanian. Again, not him, the Londoner.
Yeah.
He's been doing it 134 pages, but he's talking about other Londoners here, the idiots, not like him. But honestly, how can you do that halfway through a book? Although that's like the entire basis of the book. We got an incredible double bill here. This just really shows like what a bad unimaginative writer is. Page 137, he is describing some builders he meets. London is a fucking bitch. The first builder I meet, they call the Joker. He speaks with smirks and hops up and down on his heels as he belittles me.
They call him the Joker. He does building a little different.
Yeah.
He'll sometimes he'll make the cement extra wet so it doesn't set properly. He'll sometimes he'll build the house upside down. Just a little twisted in the world of the Joker.
He actually gives us Jokers. He is balding with an aubergine-shaped head. That's a quote. That's
not
quote.
like the fucking Joker.
An aubergine-shaped head.
Joker's
That's
got
not
loads
racist.
of hair.
That's just a weird thing to say about any human being.
Honestly, I was really hoping he was about to describe the Jared Leto Joker. I was really hoping that was what was about to happen.
Aubergine head and a cauliflower dick.
No. So he then outlines Joker's trick. Why is your English so bad? The Joker has worked as a plasterer all over Europe. He speaks some French and quite a lot of Italian and considers himself quite the linguist. Unlike Ben Judah, who's boasted about speaking Romanian and Russian and so on. You don't need to speak it, you just need to understand what the foreman is saying. The rest is easy. The Joker then starts to like rant and rave about the N-word.
No, so,
Neither he nor Judah censor it at all.
What does he say?
London, there are N's everywhere. The Indians and the Muslims control all the shops. And the English hate us, the people who build this fucking city. Have fun. So immediately after that, the next paragraph, to my right, there is Sliceface, who has a huge scar curling up the right side of his face, like the half grin of Batman's Joker.
That's also
Batman's Joker.
So hard.
That's an interesting comparison to make. I hope you didn't do it literally on the last page of the same book to a different person.
He was trying so hard not to say Scarface. He was trying
This
so
is London's
hard.
famous Joker.
Two-Face, yeah. His chin is also scarred, and he has around his huge muscular arms 2 black ink tattoos, like a pattern in marble or neo-fascist code. He is so concerned about missing Romania, he's brought his own digibox with him. They're the same digiboxes, they're just programmed different.
He just played Arkham Asylum before he went here. This is like, what is going on?
Oh, the Joker strikes again.
But by the way, how long? I'm not in a rush to go. But how long do we get to be Ilford?
Oh shit! Yeah, we're past 2 hours. Not long now. Not long. Okay. We're on the home stretch now.
Can I just quickly refill my tea?
Yes.
And then I'll be better for the final stretch. I'll be more on point. Okay.
Do you want us to keep going in the meantime so we get to it quicker? Or
just don't read anything too racist because I'll be sad if I miss it.
Right. We'll pause it for a couple of minutes then.
We got
some real hardcore stuff coming up, I imagine.
We've got some crazy shit coming up.
Cool. We'll all want to
spread out a bit more at this point in the book, so it like starts to stand out more again.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, there's Chung Lee. It's a crossover book. Whoa,
the extended Paul Mason universe.
Yeah,
fucking no, I do not want to deal with an extended Paul Mason universe. I'm gonna have to read every book.
This shit just gets really sexy all of a sudden.
Yeah, suddenly there are Chinese biker girls. What? What's going on?
Yeah. The films are good for the spectacle, but you've got to watch 6 whole seasons of Newsnight for it all to make sense.
I can't do this at a certain point. You know, there's a certain point where you realise, like, you just can't go on with what you're doing.
Like, imagine what I'm in mental state's been like all day, immersed in this absolute terrible book, man. I cannot believe what I've been reading on, like, a page-by-page basis.
Also, I think I've just seen a translation of the Dutch interview.
Yeah, no, I saw some extracts from it on Twitter this morning, and they were pretty bad, but like not as bad as the book itself.
Yeah, I mean, I just assume it's the only way you could make it more racist is to talk to the Dutch about it.
I presume that, again, this is not really surprising given Netherlands politics, but I presume the show he was on is a kind of centre-right type programme, because he's outlining the sort of the racial makeup of the city has changed, it's transformed. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but like if you're growing up now, you'll probably have a mixed race relationship and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you should say if that's good or bad.
I feel like you just say no one gives a shit about that in the real world, so who cares? Like, you know.
And he's quite positive about mixed race. A bit weird about it, but he's quite positive about mixed race relationships in the book. He's very weird about it. But
he seems to be very interested in the concept of a mixed race relationship. Certainly, God, it's such a weird book. I just can't wrap my head around how odd you'd have to be to make this.
Yeah,
I was saying to Jack in our chat the other day about this book that it's amazing. Like, Americans are just not educated enough about their racism to get to this level of, like, specificity, you know, of, like, recognizing skull shapes and busting out the measuring tape. We're just not bookish enough.
Yeah.
We just go,
we're nerds about
slur,
it,
you know. It's that European racism. It's very scientific. Pseudoscientific, obviously, but, you know, it's very, it's nerdy. It's gay racism.
Okay, I'm gonna yell at Jack when he comes back to make sure he puts that in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fuck. Really funny episode. That's a great line. Right. Sorry, I completely missed the point I was going to make there. It literally vanished from my head at the exact point I was about to start talking. He interviews a ton of Polish and Romanian builders and stuff. And they all, allegedly, again, we don't know the exact veracity of it, they all independently start kicking off about black people. They all call them the N-word quite explicitly. A couple of them are racist about other groups as well. Most of them are focused mainly on black people. And then he has one sentence at the end of it, they seem to be quite racist about black people. And that's it. That's the sole judgment he gives to anyone in the book for being bigoted as hell.
Gentlemen, you had my curiosity.
Hello.
Now, you have my attention.
Right. Okay. By the way, YAIR landed an absolute killer line in that a couple of minutes while you're away, so we need to request that you smuggle it into the edit.
I was just filling them in on that stuff I was saying about American racism not being as bookish, and your racism is gay racism.
Yeah, it's pretty gay to be. Racism gay, bro. He's looking at you racist, that's gay. Yeah, so, man. I've been watching a lot of South Park, like I said.
It comes across, there's worse things to binge on. Yeah. Depending on what bits you take.
Yeah, it depends what season, right?
Yeah. On the right side of it.
Well, I don't think it's very funny, but all the politics are correct.
All right, let's...
The one thing I learned from it is that the truth is in the middle.
Yeah.
But this next one's another one from the completely unnecessarily creepy, voyeuristic, on Judah's parts of the book. An unshaven African man in blue tiger-striped pyjama trousers and a thin black anorak shivers and flicks his shoulders back and forward from the cold. He stands reading The Sun, which is the only mention of the press in the entire book, by the way. In a book we're supposed to believe everyone's just organically picked up all these racial stereotypes. He stands reading The Sun, but every time a train empties, his pussy eyes scan the ticket line. Now, people were being very what the fuck is that mean? I can only slightly less awful explanation I can come up with. Did he mean eyes filled with pus? Did he mean pussy eyes?
Yeah, right.
Or he just spelled it like
gross.
Pussy?
Maybe he meant
pussy eyes,
Max
pussy hands,
glowing,
in Always Sunny.
Pussy eye
feline eyes.
What does that?
He's into inventing his own racism.
He's
now. That's the level he's on.
Slurs.
Wait, let's see. Just one sec.
Assume Jack's gone to get the big book of British slurs, and it's going to turn out to be a real slur somehow.
No, someone said it actually once in 1878, and they're commemorated by statue in probably Ilford. I don't know. It's the thing, it's not just that so much of this is extremely racist, it's racism, where the fuck did you get that from even? Whose mind works like this?
Well, we have an idea, don't we, as to whose mind works like this. I feel like that's the point of the thing.
Yeah, the book is a 300-page confession.
Shine those pussy eyes on me once more.
After the weird line about the pussy eyes. A gangly Romanian guy with a rose tattoo on his neck.
Maybe he just saw a vagina and thought it was a giant eye.
What the...
Guy's plural. Unless what are the chances that he saw 2 vaginas at that exact moment? Come on now, Jack. You're being silly.
Yeah.
Ben Judah deserves more respect.
Yeah. Sorry, sorry, Sam.
So this Romanian guy, gesturing in a black college jacket, both sleeves kilted leather. Remember, he kicked off literally 15 pages ago about people judging people's nationality by their clothes. He's talking about the clothes in great detail now. He's flirting with a teenage Roma girl, eyes bright, in skin-tight blue jeans and a tight motorcycle jacket, touching her raven hair and pulling those exaggerated, wily faces men only do for a reason. The air has grown sharp. Again,
what the fuck is going on?
Like teenagers and people in their early 20s flirting with each other, and he's like, I must document this crazy behaviour that's unique to the racial melting pot of London.
Yeah, I've never heard of young people
and I must do that by standing near them on the street and staring.
All he can see is pussy through his eyes.
I'm just never gonna leave me.
It's such a weird line.
I assume it's a typo. I have to assume it's a typo.
But I think eyes full of pus would be spelt the same way.
Yeah, right? I don't know how else you would spell it.
But I mean, that person is a
your
doctor.
Eyes full of pus?
Yeah, you don't want
awful.
your eyes just spewing out disgusting ectoplasmic substances.
Now, at this point, the book takes a sharp anti-English turn.
Yes.
Critical.
Yes. Here we go.
But again, it's like
great. Me and all the Welsh will love this.
Exactly at this point in the book, several people he speaks to in a row just immediately start saying the exact same lines about the English. So again, either he's made it up out of whole cloth, or one person said it and he's like, that's good, they all said it now. But the English, they were very lazy. They are working so slowly. They are working so gently, like they have become slow-witted. They pretend they can only lay 7 bricks an hour. Can you believe it? The people he's talking about are called Baby and President, by the way. Baby bursts out laughing, but the President goes on without waiting for him, his voice soft, sad, and faintly lilting. Something has happened to the poor English. They look very sick, like they have become ill. Their skin looks like they are dead. They look grey off their drinking.
Yeah, I mean, all that. I mean, there are some valid points.
Yeah, I mean, fair play.
Yeah, there's some valid points, and there's some that's just like, here's the shit they write in the Times and Telegraph, and one of them saying it, so put that in the book.
I mean, they'd write it in the Times of a Telegraph about poor people specifically, but like rich English
no one
people
wants to
look
work
like that as well.
I mean, the quote, the very real quote I've just read out, specifies poor English.
Yeah,
like, you know,
but it's like, have you seen Conservative members of the House of Lords? Their skin also looks like that of a dead person.
That's because they're all about
more
95
so,
years old. Like,
Yeah.
But Sliceface, who you'll remember as Joker number 2, joins in at this point again. This is their country, so they take all the easiest jobs for themselves. The hard jobs, they go for us. But so many of them are not working. They are so lazy. The English think you deserve £2,000 a month for driving the bus. Can you believe it? Both of them laugh.
I think I deserve £2,000 a month for like doing nothing.
Yeah, right.
I think that should just be my benefit.
We easily deserve £2,000 a month for podcasting.
Oh, 100%.
We should definitely underpay the person operating heavy machinery around cities,
Yeah, fuck them. We're doing for real work.
They have become lazy, I think, because they get things for free. They give you a free house. They give you a free operation. They give you a free everything.
They just said the guy's working.
I want
this
free everything.
Yeah, it's not for free. It's an exchange of money and labour.
Yeah, money can be exchanged for goods and services.
Again, this is all
Indeed.
Like standard British broadsheet politics. You're lazy and undeserving if you work, and overpaid, and you're lazy and undeserving and overpaid if you don't work. This is a rich country, you know. All of Africa, the diamonds from the mines come here. All of India too. And from Russia, it is the same. I don't remember when we colonised Russia, but
what comes from Russia?
Oh no, I think he's comparing Russia as a coloniser like we are.
Oh right, okay.
It's really badly written. They have colonies because all the rich live here. That's why they can afford to give all this stuff for free.
That's borderline a pretty interesting critique of like social democratic welfare states in the global north.
By many measures, Polish unemployment benefits are more generous than British ones.
Oh damn!
And I believe Romanian ones as well.
Didn't know that.
But it's
all is forgiven for the Nazi collaboration.
I think we'll give you this for a year, so it's hard to directly compare. You get more money for a shorter time. But one of them goes, in fact, the same guy, the slice-faced Joker. What do I like best about Britain? I hate the weather. I hate the damp. Everything is grey and ugly. I hate the women. They're so ugly. The work is hard. I can't read the next sentence. Prices
You've got the N-word.
Very racist. Yes.
It's just the N-word over and over.
He says they're everywhere. The prices are terrible.
Well, you basically said it. You basically conveyed the sentence
basically,
to us.
but I didn't say it.
Crucially, did not say the word.
I would expect you to just not say the words anyway. Just read
I
the
thought you were
sentence.
going to say I was expecting to just say it. I'm like, what the fuck have I been given as an impression on this podcast, man? I hate the fact I wanted to buy a jacket and the only one I liked was £300. To be honest, the only thing I like is the money.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I'm being honest about how I feel about Britain,
I don't like the money.
Excluding one particular sentence.
Yeah, excluding one sentence. Yeah, the slur sentence, let's get rid of that. Someone said that slur sentence to me at a gig I was at in Estonia about Britain. It was fucking crazy. Because I was just chatting to this guy at this I think it was Metallica I was seeing. And we were just chatting. He's like, oh yeah, I've been to Britain. I went to Liverpool. And then he said that slur sentence to me about Liverpool.
He was very poorly trying to speak English. He was trying to just repeat the classic line from the Lulu album about swallowing a black man's cock like a big sword or whatever.
The thing is, the guy spoke perfect English. He meant what he said to me.
So this is a really interesting bit now, more so than in 2016 when it was written. So he's talking about, a lot of Russian oligarch types have brought up property in London and so on, and they sort of maintain them or don't maintain them. We know the sort of issues he's talking about there. And one of the ones he's talking to, a Polish guy, I think, is, you know what breaks my heart? My job is to destroy London. They call me every week and every time they want the same thing over the phone. White walls with chrome finish, minimalist, modernist, that's what the Russians want. The lovely things I rip out, you wouldn't even believe. And this is Ben Judah talking now. Anyone in Eastern Europe can recognise the secret police. Those eyes, the tone of voice, the smile, that drinker's skin. Pavel ran away from them when Moscow forced Poland into martial law. Now they have caught up with him. But he doesn't seem to care. He doesn't mean they've literally caught up with him. He means there's Russians in London and this guy doesn't like Russians. He doesn't seem to care. He's more annoyed how rusty his Russian has become. But it is still good enough to have 3 Pimlico Ukrainians as his clients. That says he rarely sees them. They come quickly when they want to buy, and the English, they rip them off every time. They lie to them. Yes, Mr. Boris, this place is so prestigious. Yes, Mr. Boris, this place is so close to the Westminster Palace. He imitates their fawning lisp. These guys were nervous. They were politicians in Kiev, and they needed this money out very quickly. And then goes on about basically how the English, everyone from the council and upwards has conned them, but why were they trying to get out of Kiev so quickly as politicians?
What's going on?
In the 2010s. They look after empty homes for the owners, they're politicians, and in Ukraine, those guys always need a safe place to run. Not going to examine that any further.
Yeah, just move on.
Definitely can't let this very corrupt-sounding country join NATO.
Yeah, that would undermine what NATO stands for, definitely.
Yeah. I've heard all I need to hear now.
He starts
Case
at the
closed.
next point. Some of them start talking about how the local Albanians are violent exploiters, basically. And Ben Judah, who's barely expressed an opinion or certainly hasn't written about his side of the conversation with any of these people, starts bonding with them over contempt and hatred for the vile Albanians.
Wow, you can tell he is part Roman. He's definitely Balkan. He's got a bit of Balkan in him. I'll be real about it.
Yeah, this is good. We can trace people's ancestry from how they trace other people's ancestry. He just tells some boring gangland stories that may or may not be true. Ben Judah wouldn't know either. Does he believe what he's getting
He's
told?
not a connected guy. Ben Judah is a fake gangster.
Yeah.
Ben Judah, he is. He's a fake gamer as well.
Yeah, fake gamer.
So the next person is distinct from the previous person who was moaning about the English. And again, I've used his transcription of their accent where it's included. We think the English woman's, she hesitates, breathes. We think they are very, very weak. They don't do nothing. But they saying we are very, very tired. There is a woman I am cleaning. She is in the Battersea. She has the 3 children. He's literally watched an episode of Hello Hello as he was drafting this fake interview, isn't he?
And you have
she has
three
the 3
children?
She is sitting at home doing nothing. She has cleaner, she has a nanny. So he's not kept the accent consistent in that sentence. She has a man who come to make nice garden. Woman sitting in the kitchen doing almost nothing. But at the end of the day, she's saying to me, I tired. I am very, very tired. But why? I think we are much stronger than they are. And again, the English people, this is almost verbatim what the last person said, who she hasn't met, as far as I know. The English people, I think they're very lazy. The rich English cannot do anything for themselves. Every time they need like a hammer or the water is having a problem, they are calling people who must do it for them. The poor English, he is sitting at home taking the benefits. He is no working. They don't want to work when it is difficult. So there's one of two things happening here. Either Ben is starting to write standard editorial views of the newspaper he works for into characters' mouths in fictional work, or the migrant communities are picking up specific racist talking points from British papers, and again, there is no mention of the press beyond one guy having a copy of The Sun in his hand in the entire book.
Yeah.
So a lot of these people I'm talking to here are saying some quite racist things. How did they get those beliefs?
No idea.
Let's not even ask it once at any point. That would take space where we can actually be like talking about what exotic fruit their head is shaped like, you know? So we're getting towards the business end now, by the way.
Oh, good.
Almost.
Gapey business.
Yeah, it's coming up soon. Two teenage... It's another creepy one, sorry. Two teenage Ukrainian girls from Dagenham in leggings and American baseball caps are taking pictures of themselves suggestively against the sunset. The Bangladeshi boys circle them, making macho hoots, but they are too shy to speak to the hot girls. The hot girls, that's his words, by the way.
She is
two teenage Ukrainian girls in leggings. He's like, whoa.
We got him. We got him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Yeah.
He got him.
The Labour Council leader in Edinburgh had to resign for this sort of stuff just the other day.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you just played yourself.
This only seems to make the Ukrainians more enraged. Their shoot is inching into the provocative. Their dance seems to have been going on for some time. I interrupt in the vague hope they might offer me some weed.
Wait, what?
What do we think?
I fucking hate moochers when it comes to weed specifically. Like, just make sure you've got your supply in, you fucking little bitch.
Easily the worst thing Ben Judah does in this entire book.
Yeah. You want to smoke weed, you get a connection, you establish a good business relationship with them, you buy regularly, and you buy before you run out. You don't go relying on hot teenagers to get your fucking weed, Ben.
Christ.
Jack calls for weed smokers to take personal responsibility. That's
It's about time. It's about time.
That's official editorial policy here now.
All right, maybe you buy from teenagers sometimes, but only in desperate measures.
Don't incriminate yourself. Theoretical here.
I'm not talking about buying sex from them.
What do you
It's still illegal.
Yes.
Oh, what Elton said. Everything had been loosened up and it was causing all sorts of problems.
So, Ben Judah is interrupting, not really a conversation, but he's interrupting a scene which has two teenage Ukrainian girls. What do you think is his opening conversational gambit? We know what they're doing. They're dancing around. We know he thinks they're hot. We know he is vaguely hoping they might offer him some weed.
Any of y'all got some weed or
boys around as well?
What the fuck?
If you're in his shoes, how do you open?
Ask for weed in a Tennessee accent is what I would.
Why, hello there!
Yeah.
My name is Ben P. Judah. I'm a respected owner in the slave trade.
Yeah,
I wonder
also-
if you have some of this here marijuana.
Also asked him about student athletes.
By the way, I think you are very sexually attractive young women.
It's a good guess. Unfortunately, it's not quite right. Either Sinan or YAIR got any
further
guesses?
guesses?
I've got another one. He does the milk speech.
Yeah, milk speech.
He doesn't-
Does he use a really awful pickup line that you would hear from like a 2010 episode of a machinima that had run for way too long?
No, that would be at least funny.
It's a very specific comment.
Like, what's your star sign?
Yeah. If I said
any
you had a
weed?
beautiful body, would you hold it against me?
A classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, time honoured.
You gotta, you know.
All of these, including the literal Cartman impression, would be better openers than what he decides to open with, again, two teenage Ukrainian girls he obviously fancies. What do we think of all these Eastern Europeans? That's his opening line.
Opening with like racial tension to buy weed is.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's an in-betweeners bit, isn't it?
And what are they going to say? They are Eastern European.
Yeah, and somebody walks up to me, what do you think of all these Jews?
Well,
We'd be like, well, my friend Jack has some opinions, I'll pass you on to him.
give you his email,
Yeah.
But the Bangladeshi boys, who's only characterised before as circling the girls making macho hoots, actually, like, completely own Ben Judah here. I'm not sure he realises it because he leaves it in print, but, like, the boys look for words. We are all immigrant, innit? Our dad's all immigrants. You're lot immigrants then. And Ben Judah nods because, yes, his parents were immigrants. The boys stare wistfully at the girls, like Ben was just doing and describing doing in print. Why are there so many, like, just creepy little scenes in there? It's like, I saw some teenagers. I stared at them. Repeat again. Do
you know what's funny about this is he voluntarily left this in the book.
Mason, you wouldn't be surprised. He's always had that vibe to him. But like,
but also,
no one would specifically have thought Ben Judah was like a creep.
To be unnecessarily fair to Paul Mason, every woman in the weird sex book seems to be at least like convincingly of legal age. Whereas, like, if you're describing teenage to me...
It's fiction anyway.
Yeah, it's also...
The Mason thing is... He could write, you know, basically a scene of, like, child pornography in it, and it could be artistically justified. I'm going to say it probably
wouldn't be, right? Yeah.
But in theory...
Almost certainly wouldn't be. Like, that's a very... Like,
also, we're not saying he has done this, to be also doubly clear. We're not saying...
Purely a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Basically, his opinions on London and its racial makeup sound like a sort of less confrontational version of Morrissey a few years ago when he started kicking off about, like, London doesn't feel like London anymore. I only go through the centre of it when I'm on tour, but, like, there's less white faces. But so he then interviews some Filipino house cleaners working for posh people, cleaning and maintaining the house. They took weeks to persuade to take part in this book. Finally, the Filipinos invited me for tea on one condition. They must not have a single feature identified. No names, no haircuts, no eye colours, no heights or visible limps or gaits, no addresses, no places of birth, no ages, no frowns, scars, or particular chuckles or grins.
All right, we get it, Ben.
It sounds like they're familiar with Ben Judah's work.
Yeah, right. They seem to know
his entire playbook. They could only be identified collectively as the Filipinos, and once that was agreed, they promised me the secrets.
Was he just going through and, like, naming every part of their body, or, like, every identifying feature? He's like, what about your eyes? No. What about your big tits that have huge tits? No. What if I describe your feet? Absolutely not.
But this is the thing. He's kind of like putting that in to show like how paranoid they are and how much he had to agree to get them to speak to him. But like, what you've agreed with them there, they can only be identified collectively as the Filipinos. You know, a big homogenous group. That's what you've done in this book with every other minority you've dealt with. Like, the Romanians think this about the Irish, you think this about the Turkish, and so on.
You think this about the Africans.
Oh, no, please, we cannot get into Turkish opinions on Africans. Please. Can we move swiftly on?
I'll allow that. You've got the greater knowledge on this by far.
Like, okay, I'll tell you all one thing, which is that when Barack Obama visited Turkey after he won his presidency, a Turkish news anchor addressed him in blackface.
Oh my god!
That is.
You send me a clip or a
I
screenshot.
will send you a clip of it. It's insane.
There's a weird extract where like the Filipinos are bitching about Jewish people in ways that some of it is like anti-Semitic and some of it is them bitching about Israel being a shithole. And they're just a bit too closely intertwined. But, like, Ben seems to be, like, leaving loads of this in because it's, like, weirdly pro-Israel in a way, or pro-Israeli, because he's, like, again, not my views, the views of some dubious provenance sources in a book that's probably fiction. The Jews, they only ever talk about Israel. Israel, all day Israel. And it's as if they're living here in St. John's Wood, but they're really there in precious Israel. Sometimes they're invited to come to Israel for the special Jew days. The Jews, they talk about Israel always like a land of gold. And the Filipinos, they're excited to come because they're sure it must be a land of diamonds. And all the Filipinos are bragging when they're about to go. because this is where the Jews come from, and everyone knows all Jews are rich. And
I love the logical leaps that are being made here.
Yeah, but they're not Bens. They're definitely real people he was speaking to.
All Filipinos are gonna, well, not all, but a large number of Filipinos are gonna move to Israel because all Jews are rich. They definitely won't still be employed as cleaners.
Yeah,
Israel.
I mean that's the plausible bit. But I'm gonna say if you're like collectively identifying the people you speak to as like the Filipinos, you should probably leave out racially dubious views of theirs because like. It kind of makes it look like all the Filipinos collectively think that more generally than the ones you spoke to.
Yeah, or he could just give the Jews a right to reply.
Yeah, so they're excited to go to Israel because all the Jews are rich, everyone knows it, and they're in shock when they come back. That's most definitely not the case, and they watch the faces of these rich people. This is the pro-Israel bit. They are so happy in this rundown, dusty, clapped-out place of poor people. Even the Filipinos can see is nothing special like Doha, Abu Dhabi, or Dubai. So you might be thinking that's not pro-Israel, but it's kind of like the proud Zionists making the best of the difficult desert land they've been given, against adversity.
Even the Filipinos can see it.
Also,
I don't think that sentence is real.
Also,
the
Jack,
rest of it might be. But
you should have a picture of the Turkish news anchor in blackface.
Where have you?
I sent it to you on Facebook.
Let me see. Oh my god!
What's the guy's name?
What the fuck? He looks like Vince McMahon. What is the context?
Okay,
what is the
That's because that's the blackface doing that.
I didn't mean to react with a heart reaction, but I'm going to leave that there anyway.
The guy's name is Gökhan Taşkın, and so basically he is addressing Obama on because the first place Obama visited when he became president in 2008 was Turkey. He visited Turkey, and he basically addressed Obama in blackface to complain about how America basically doesn't take Turkey seriously.
Nice, that will be sure to put Turkey on the map once and for all.
He's like, and he also tries to reassure Obama that Turkey is not racist to him because of his skin color. And I'm not convinced that's the case. I'm gonna be real.
God.
Yeah, I feel like he may have set that
that's
process back slightly.
Yeah.
Are we getting to the "you is a Jew" question mark bit?
And also, I will point out this Turkish news anchor used a racist expression about black people while on TV talking about Obama in blackface.
So did Obama on WTF.
If there was any doubt left, So I think that bit kind of covers the same bit as the.
Oh no, this is great stuff in my opinion.
Okay, right. So actually, this I think is slightly afterwards. It's a different interviewee, but again, they all sort of say the same terms, but what is your blood? So again, they've allegedly said to Ben himself while going through interviews with him and that. What is your blood? You is a Jew. Ha. ... Okay, I'm going to spell out the dots of this because that's what makes this interview particularly implausible.
I was going to suggest you do that because this shit is so made up.
This is so. If it's real, and really, is it real? There's a lot of paraphrasing in here. When you you cut and paste the sentences to slightly change them. There's a lot of this.
Our lawyers said this is ... perfectly ... legal.
That's right.
Legal. What is your blood? You is a Jew. Ha ... We get your fathers many times ... Oh, she's a sex worker, by the way, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
We get your fathers many times ... The Jew who come in the cars ... The big family cars ... The Jew in black clothes ... with the beards ... When they come to us, they take off the little hats ... The Jews they smell, they sweat in bad black clothes ...
I'm kind of losing it. They take off the little hat as a specific detail they remember. I'm kind of losing it at that.
Yeah. They come in the big cars again.
Back to the cars.
The one they carry the children in. ... Were you in a big car like that, Mr. Jew? ... Question mark. So there's more to that question that he's admitted. There's a question mark after the dots.
Yeah. What's the rest of this?
The ones with all the food bits ... everywhere ... between seats ... What's in these ellipses?
They're just listing all the parts.
How many sentences have you pieced?
They're just taking dramatic pauses.
Yeah, that's right. It's theatrical.
Yeah.
It's
There are no children when your fathers come. We are in the cars with them. They are the hungriest ones.
Which spelling of
I
cum
don't
is
know.
that?
Good.
I don't know. It could be either version of cum, really. It's spelt COME.
But you may have misunderstood because
he's Ben Tudor. Let's face it. Yeah. So that's part of a long interview that just goes on for pages and pages and pages, and again, it's just written in this mad style where like the ellipses indicates it was like an even longer interview again, and he just could not be bothered editing it. This is actually the mad anti-Turkish racism.
Oh hell yeah!
One of them.
Let's go. After what they did to Obama, let's go.
So she's describing, I think, a violent John. Marie, ... Marie is a good girl, ... Hello, Marie, nice Marie, ... She good with the boys, ... Always speaking nice, ... Yes, daddy, you big daddy, ... Bit of wrestling crossover there, love a bit of big daddy. The man, ... Grab Marie like this, ... And he stab her. I spark it up for her. That's Ben interjecting. I spark it up for her.
What, he's lighting up a joint?
Presumably. I can't be bothered reading the preceding pages again. I've already suffered through it once.
Yeah.
He doesn't really add much context to much of what he does or says. He's called a fit 2 paragraphs before and says there's a smell of spirits to her breath. Fucking Ben, leave it out, man. You weirdo. This man, ... Maybe a crazy drugs man, ... But I confuse, ... I know understand, ... This is Edmonton, ... Nobody understand, ... But some people say it's Turkish man, ... A crazy Turkish man, ...
No.
Maybe jealous, ... That's 6 dots if you're counting. Big pause here. But maybe it's jihad. ...
Look, I'm just, it's been known to happen in Turkey, jihad.
In fact, immediately before the "you as a Jew" bit, 2 paragraphs before that, she carries on. There are also Turkish people. ... The old men mostly. ... This just sounds like English pub stereotypes rather than a real thing someone said. They work in the shop and the kebab.
Yeah. I've heard that as well. Yeah.
And they smell kebab. ... If you worked in a kebab shop, you probably
I'm gonna interject with personal experience here. Yes, that is how it works, guys. You're there for like 9-10 hours, and there's a fucking Donna rolling around next to you. Yeah, it's gonna fucking it's gonna come out like that.
If you work in a traditional English fish and chip shop, you come home smelling of chips every day. It's not unique to kebab shops or Turkish people. They are coming the most times. Again, ambiguous. I don't know exactly which version of coming she means there.
Been hearing that too.
Turkish pay the best.
That doesn't sound true. That sounds fake. I'm going to be real with you.
Sometimes the Turkish is gentle. ... Likes the girl a lot. ... Same girl every week. ... Sometimes bring her flour, sometimes bring her kebab. ... That's the end of the Turkish section.
I'm sorry.
The duality of
I
man.
Love the idea of,
sometimes bring her flour, sometimes bring her kebab.
I'm just into this person, so I'm going to bring him a kebab. Is such a powerful move that I think it would work on.
I'll be honest, if you're having a fairly bleak existence as an exploited sex worker, and the people he's talking to, if they're real, are very much exploited, you'd probably be delighted if someone bought you a nice kebab at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the pros of the job.
I hear Turkish people who've been married for 40 years, they bring home a kebab. It's just...
So we're now getting right to the end of the... I was going to wrap it up here. This is when we were starting to get ready to record, and I found the very last bit I wrote. Oh my God, right. So the framing of this, he decides he needs to speak to a mother. The reason being, I am not entirely comfortable with the questions I have come to ask. What does it feel like to give birth?
What the fuck?
That seems like a whole different...
That's a different book.
...thing than, the scope of the book.
I'm sorry.
So...
That's a different
What's
book.
it like not having a willy by Ben Judah, the new New York Times bestseller?
You'd think, well, that's very silly, and the vibe of this section can't possibly be as weird as what Jack just said.
Yeah.
But this is Jack's big moment, because no collection of sentences ever written has as much realpolitik energy, a very specific recurring realpolitik character energy, as the next couple of pages. Jack, do you have the extract still?
Yeah, but soppy pug.
Yeah, it starts with as it means to go on. So the first 2 screenshots I sent you in that little bit.
And you want me to do the whole thing in a particular voice?
Yeah, apart from the couple of sentences that are like someone talking to him.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, all the stuff that's like what Ben Judah is saying should be done in character. You'll hear what I mean.
Okay.
Like,
I blink into the art on the wall at a huge grey scale canvas of a soppy pug licking the pregnant bulge of a woman's body. The pug seems excited, a little unsavoury, and the toned, small-breasted woman has no head, only a long, curving, ancient Egyptian neck. I try to fight it, but there is something hypnotic in the pug. I tear my eyes away into my notebook. And I try and write down everything I know about the Russian woman I have come to interview. She is a mother, and I need to interview a mother. She was a model who posed nude in furs on Red Square. She was a socialite who sipped with the oligarchs. She was the wife of a mini-gark whose baby she bore in London. She is now living with another man whose electric green scarf lies over the divan. I can hear her speaking upstairs to the maid, a fast, unfettered Russian. Okay.
Oh, boy.
And I do not understand what that means. Oh, sorry, that's her talking. Is it? I guess? I don't know, it's in a quote. And I do not understand what this means. And Doctor goes... alright, this is a Russian. And I do not understand what this means.
No, Jack, sorry, you skipped the screenshot. There were 2 in the bit above.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. There is There is a hostile, nasty art staring at me across the room. Did a fucking Russian who doesn't speak English write that sentence? A nasty art.
No, this is Ben Judah. This is Ben Judah describing his surroundings.
The nasty art staring at me across the room in red ink, in black felt tip. A sketch as intricate as a pulp cartoon. It is a monstrous vessel tipped with the clock towers of the Kremlin, covered with the scales of a fish, commanded by a bear. Winged like this keeps going. Winged like a czarist eagle, drifting between icebergs. Its hole marked oil. So you want to know about birth? My subject has appeared somehow in the room. A Russian apparition trick.
Thank you, Jack. Right.
Is that is that it? Are we done? Are we free?
I think we're free.
Sorry, I didn't realise we were at the fucking 3-hour mark just about. So even though it was a delayed start, that was a bit longer than I was planning. Let's leave it there.
Yeah.
And give anyone any more to edit.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Sorry to keep you so long, Sinan.
Yeah, it's probably fine. I don't know. It might be fine. It might not be. Who knows? I'll figure it out tomorrow. All it's done is shaved like a bit of time off my writing this fucking fuck Keir Starmer video, but that's fine.
Oh, that's the one thing we don't want to keep you from.
Yeah.
Like, the more anti-Starmer stuff going out into the world, the better.
Yeah.
We're sorry to take up your attention with weird right-wing racist.
Oh no, but that's just Keir Starmer.
Exactly that to be working on
yeah,
yourself.
Like I'm already going to be talking about how Keir Starmer believes in the Great Replacement theory. So, you know.
Nice. not nice. It's a bad. Nice that you're talking about.
It's very bad, but your video will, I'm sure, highlight it very well.
Oh yeah, no, I've got a whole section titled "Is Keir Starmer a far-right conspiracy theorist?" and I'm just asking questions so he can't sue me.
Yes, an open-ended question.
Yeah.
To which the answer is yes.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
All right.
So long as you frame it as probably, you can't touch it.
Yeah.
I'll save my.
Sorry, the one last anecdote I should read. We can just drop this in whenever or use it to trail because I've already posted it on Twitter. Like that's why
I'm recording my file again. Yep.
Okay, right. So the one good bit of the book. He's interviewing someone who's talking about his family who had come, I think, from Granada. He's talking about the estate they'd grown up in Granada, and he says Moses knew his mum was. In fact, this is Moses' ex. We mentioned him briefly earlier.
Come on the podcast, Moses X.
Moses' ex. Yeah. Moses knew his mum was a strong woman, but she was scared as shit those first few weeks in White City Estate. She's obviously just moved to the country. There were only a few things she knew about London. She knew the place was crawling with paedophiles. Everyone back in...
Incidentally, White City, the name of a Pete Townsend album.
Yeah, so she's... again, not going to finish that thought. There was not enough evidence to proceed, as I understand it.
Exactly. Innocent.
Not guilty.
Not guilty. Same thing.
Everyone back in Gun Battle, which was the overseas estate they grew up on, knew
Awesome
this.
name.
Everyone back in Gun Battle knew this about the English. There were so many paedophiles in London, they were arresting them every other week.
Usually they just don't arrest
that's the unusual part.
That's the ones they catch. I think how many they are. Everyone in England could be a paedophile. The comedians, the policemen, the headmasters, even the preachers. I love that they used the comedians as the first example. Yeah. all through that first year, it was the year 2000. She was chattering scared for Moses because of all the paedophiles.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, you would have to assume someone would prosecute the paedophiles, and as we know, there's no,
Wow. I'm sure they put a very fine man in charge of that. But unfortunately, we know now, particularly, that he loves a holiday. And presumably that's why none of the big cases ever happened to cross his desk, despite him taking full responsibility.
Desk.
He's obviously due his annual leave, just like everyone else, and seems to have got quite a lot of it.
Yeah. Mm. And housing benefit. So he doesn't have to go crawling to Lord Ali.
Oh man, I'm definitely going to mention how he's basically Lord Ali's dress up doll. It's so fucking bizarre.
Yeah,
it's so bizarre.
Can't dress himself.
I'm so confused by that whole thing. I'm not going to lie.
Do people want the Prime Minister to be wearing rags? Is that what they want?
Explicitly, yes. If he can't afford clothes, yes, he should wear fucking rags. I'm sorry. If you can't afford clothes and you get paid 140 grand a year, fuck you.
That is
reduced to Armani rags.
Yeah. And anyway, so sorry to end that with a rant about the other fucking dickhead in my life.
No, fuck him.
Never ever apologise for ranting about Keir Starmer on the Real Politik podcast.
I feel like I drew focus from Ben Judah there, unfortunately.
Yeah, fuck that.
We're allowed 30 seconds of drawing focus from him, and like it is playing the hits on Real Politik.
Yeah.
Like,
Starmer out. Starmer out.
This Judah book is so bad that Real Politik Inc. call for the immediate resignation of Keir
That's
Starmer.
right.
Yeah. I'm afraid this is the final straw.
Incredible.
And David Lammy as well. Add that on.
Yeah.
And there's actual. That's not even.
Actually, yeah. To be fair, maybe he should resign.
Yeah, I think that guy should probably resign. He's a massive piece of shit.
You'd imagine there's at least 10 distinct pages in this book that if you showed them to David Lammy without telling him beforehand, this is the guy that works for you that wrote it, he would be raging.
Yeah. How dare you, sir? Yeah.
All right. Are we free?
Let's really go this time.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm so happy about
been
this
good.
project that I will just keep talking
It's
forever.
been a blast. Yeah, I need to go.
Right.
This is a man's world. This is a man's world. doing nothing at all without a woman, a girl. You see, man made the cars to take us over the road. I made the train to carry a heavy load. Man made the electric light to take us out of the dark. Man made boats for the water. I don't know how many they are. This is man's world. But it would be nothing without a woman and a girl. You know, man thinks about baby boys, and he thinks about little baby girls. Man made the toys, you leave over the wood. And after man made everything that he can, man makes money to buy some other man. This is a man's world, but it ain't nothing but a woman or a girl. I know he's lost in the wilderness. You know he's lost in the wilderness.